Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats.
Mrs. Rogers, you hired the defendant as a nanny, and she worked for you for a very short period of time before quitting. It is your claim that she owes you some money because you made travel arrangements for your family along with the defendant, and it was, you claim, her agreement that if she did not go on these trips with you, or this trip with you, she would pay you for her ticket. Ms. Stowers says that she quit after a couple of weeks because her job responsibilities increased. She wasn't happy about that. And that she did agree to reimburse you for any of your out-of-pocket expenses, which she did by sending you a check for change of name or whatever that had to be done to change the tickets. So why don't you tell me when she came to work for you?
She came to work for me in October, early October. And
she was hired as a result of an ad that you put in the paper?
Yes. Yeah.
And what were her job responsibilities?
At the time when I hired her, I explained that the job was a very busy job, that it wasn't for anybody that just wanted to babysit or sit and watch TV, that it was for a person that had a lot of energy, and it was a lot of laundry. I have 3 very busy kids running around, making messes all the time, and also that we had trips planned.
All right, 3 kids and laundry is what I hear so far.
And house cleaning. House cleaning nanny was the ad that I put in the paper.
You have a copy of the paper?
I'm afraid I don't, Your Honor.
What did the ad say?
It was for a mother's helper, and with light housekeeping, 3 kids.
Yes.
Your Honor, I never said anything about light house cleaning. I made it very clear that it was heavy house cleaning from the very beginning.
What was the ad?
The ad was for mother's helper, house cleaning, child care, homework, kind of a variety of positions.
Oh, not in the ad, madam. Miss Rogers, don't make it up as you're going. I've read lots of ads for mother's helpers, nannies, housekeepers. They don't go into homework. That doesn't happen. Yeah, and you don't have a copy of the ad?
No, I'm afraid I don't, but it did say schoolwork in the ad.
How large a house do you have?
Not a large house, Your Honor. It's
Why don't you tell me how large a house you have?
2-bedroom rambler with hardwood floors.
And you have 3 children. How old are they?
2, 5, and 11.
Do you work outside of the home?
No, I don't.
So it's really helping you?
Yes, it is. But most of the, I must add that most of the responsibility of the house cleaning is left to my mother's helper. And I make that very clear when I interview them, that I like to spend more time at my daughter's school and with her doing homework. And what I needed my helper to do is help keep the house clean and run the kids around to their activities.
And how much were you paying her for this job?
At that time...
How much were you being paid?
$1,500 a month.
And how many days a week were you working?
5 days a week.
How many hours a day?
It was usually 8 hours a day, sometimes more.
Okay. Now tell me about the lawsuit.
Okay. When I hired her, I made it quite clear that we had...
Just tell me what you said. Sorry, don't tell me what you made clear.
Okay, I said that we're taking these trips, and I need to make sure that you're happy with your job before we buy the tickets, because once we buy the tickets, we're locked in. And so I waited 3 weeks before I asked her how she was liking the job and if everything was cool for her. And she said it was, and that she was happy and that she was going to go on the trips with us. So at that time, my husband made the travel arrangements on the computer while we were all standing in the kitchen. My husband printed this out and gave her a copy of each of the trips, so she had a copy of her own, explaining when we would be gone and when we'd be coming back and where we would be going.
Go ahead.
And so everything was fine for a while. Nicole seemed like she was very quiet, and so I kept asking her, is everything okay, Nicole? Are you sure you're happy with your job and everything? She says, yeah, I'm fine. 2 to 3 weeks went by, and it was payday, and my husband paid Nicole, and she left, and everything was fine. And then the next morning, she called in sick. The next day was her day off. The following day, when she should have been there at 1 o'clock, she called me at 1 o'clock. She said that she'd found that the job was just too much work for her and that she wanted to spend more time with her boyfriend, John. At that time, I said, that's terrible, because you're just leaving me hanging here. What am I going to do with the kids tonight? She knew I had an important engagement that I had to go to that evening. And I ended up having to call my parents. They're 72 years old, and have them come up to the house so they could watch the 3 children for me. And at that time, I said, Nicole, what about the plane tickets? We can't change the names on those. What are we going to do? And she said, I have the money in the bank, and I'm really sorry about leaving you hanging like this, but I'm going to reimburse you for the money. And she said that she wanted me to bring her a copy of the tickets. 2 days later, she gave me this letter and a copy of the check that she decided, she kind of added up what she felt she owed, which was not accurate.
Just a second.
Okay.
Okay, and she sent you a check for $172, which you didn't cash. Is
No.
that right? Okay. All right, now, what do you claim she owes you for?
I claim that she owes me for the third trip that we could not change the name.
Third trip is to where?
It's to, Darren, was it to Miami?
Fort Lauderdale.
To Fort Lauderdale.
When is that trip scheduled for?
That is April.
April 3rd or 4th.
April 3rd. I was under the impression I could not change the name on the first ticket, and this is a document saying that the electronic, these cannot be changed, and that was why I was under the impression that she would owe me for that full amount on the first ticket that she paid me. $50, was that correct, Darren?
Yes.
But you could change the name.
We found that we could change the name.
Right, okay.
So that's not what we're suing her for.
All right, Nicole?
Yes.
Let me hear your end of the story.
Well, when I first started working for him, it was a nanny job. I was there to take care of the kids and clean up after the kids. It changed, like, after about 2 weeks, it changed from watching the kids and taking care of the kids to being their maid, basically. I was mopping their floors, cleaning their bathrooms, ironing, cleaning up after the dog, everything. The second day I worked there, she asked me if I wanted to go on the trip with them to the Caribbean in January. And I said yes, because it's 3 months away. I was doing okay in the job, like it felt comfortable, but it was only the second day. So I agreed to go with them on that trip, and I agreed to pay for the trip if I backed out, if I quit, which I paid for when I quit. As far as the one in April.
How much was that, the change of name on that trip in January?
Well, they gave me, I have the letter here that they wrote me, and he originally wanted me to pay $359 for the ticket, but I called Alaska Air to see how much the ticket was, and I found out that he bought it with his mileage, and he only paid $5 for it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I can understand why she quit. Easy. It was a lot of work, and you were not paying her a lot of money.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Leslie Rogers says former nanny Nicole Stowers agreed to accompany her family on a vacation. Leslie says right before the trip, Nicole quit.
How did he pay $5 for it?
Because he used his miles off his card, so he paid $5 for the ticket.
Is that right, sir?
I bought 6 tickets.
Is that correct?
2 of the tickets I paid $364. 4 of the tickets I bought with miles. I'm not suing her for that ticket at all.
I understand that you're not suing her for that ticket. You did write her a note, however, that says, Nicole, you can still use these tickets for a round trip to Miami, round trip to Fort Lauderdale, and the Miami trip cost $359, and the Fort Lauderdale trip cost $365, which indicated that you expected her to pay for these.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I understand why, listen, I understand that you are annoyed, Miss Rogers, that she left you in a lurch without giving you adequate notice. I understand that. I also understand that for $375, you're asking her to not only act as the nanny, but you're asking her to do house cleaning, not light house cleaning, house cleaning. It was a lot of work, and you were not paying her a lot of money. So I can understand why she quit. Easy. And you did not have any prearrangement with her, even according to your own testimony, Miss Rogers. No prearrangement with her that she was going to pay for this Fort Lauderdale trip. According to your own testimony, what you said was when you called her afterwards, she said she feels really badly and she's going to reimburse you for what you were out of pocket on the ticket. That's what you just testified to. That's what you just testified to. You said you were standing around. You said, shall I book these tickets? She said, yes, you can book these tickets. And we were all standing around in the kitchen and we booked the tickets. Then you said after she quit, and you called her and you said, you're leaving me in a lurch. She said, yes, I understand. And what about the tickets? And she said, we'll reimburse you for whatever out of pocket was. There was not a prearrangement when you bought these tickets, especially in April, that you bought in when, October or November? You don't have indentured servants these days, Miss Rogers. Something could happen in 6 months or 8 months' time. So if your husband bought tickets on miles, maybe you should have saved his miles and bought the one for Fort Lauderdale. I think she's a very nice young lady for sending you $172. If I were you, I would cash the check. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She was lying and saying that it was more work than I had told her from the beginning, and that's not true.
If I wouldn't have quit on payday, I would have been the one suing them for my wage.
And now the next case.
All parties on Lambert versus Staines. Step forward, please.
Geological draftsman Sherry Lambert is suing neighbor interior designer Penny Staines for knocking over a marble statue in her home.
Miss Lambert, I gather that you and the defendant are neighbors, is that right?
Yes.
And it is your claim that she owes you $5,000 because she was at your home during a party and knocked over a statue in your home and broke it.
Correct.
Ms. Staines said she's very sorry. It was an accident.
True, but she also entered the home uninvited.
So let's talk about that. You were having a party?
Mr. Brown and his wife and myself were hosting a small party that day, yes.
How was Mr. Brown?
He's my next door neighbor. I apologize, Your Honor.
And how many people were at the party?
I'd say approximately 15.
How large an apartment or home do you have?
About 2,000 square feet.
Now tell me about Miss Staines. How did she get to the party?
I'm not sure, but she walked in carrying a plate of bread in one hand, a yellow glass in the other,
So you saw, just a second, so you saw her when she came in?
That's correct. I was standing off to the side, and she came in the front door and announced, "I'm crashing your party." I took the bread out of her hand, walked into the dining room.
Said, shh, just a second. She must have said something to you first for you to take the bread out of her hand. Now, was this bread that she was eating, or was this bread that she came to bring to the party?
She was bringing it to the party.
Okay.
All right, she stated she was crashing the party.
Right.
I was not happy, didn't quite know how to respond.
I don't care whether you were happy or not. Your emotional state is not relevant to these proceedings. I want to know what you did.
I took the bread from her and took it into the dining room. I did not want food on the bar area.
Was there a buffet there? Is that what was there?
Correct.
What happened next?
I heard a loud crash. I walked back into the living room area. The defendant was sitting on the floor next to this marble statue and pedestal, which she had knocked over. She was very upset. She was crying, sobbing. Needless to say, I was very upset.
Did you see a lawyer, Ms. Lambert?
No.
Did anyone tell you that if she was a guest in your home and this accident happened, because clearly you don't suggest she did this on purpose.
No, it was
an accident,
careless.
that she was not legally responsible. Did anyone ever tell you that?
No.
Did anyone ever tell you that if she were an invited guest, she would not be legally responsible, but if she was uninvited into your home and was really trespassing in your home, then she would be responsible?
That's what I would assume to be correct.
That's the reason why you told me in your complaint, "I'm crashing your party," to make it clear that she was really trespassing in your home.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Correct, Your Honor.
Trying to get around the fact that an invited guest would not be responsible if there was an accident in your home.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If it was in a safe place, unless she took her body and lunged into it.
Which she very possibly could have.
But you have no proof that she did that, Miss Lambert.
I do have an eyewitness, Mr. Brown. Saw her
Mr.
knock it over.
Brown, come up here, sir.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Sherry Lambert says neighbor Penny Staines crashed a party at her home. Sherry claims during the party, Penny knocked over a marble statue.
Now, had you been previously invited to this party?
I had not officially been invited, no, Your Honor.
That's what I gather. And when you came in, you said, "I'm crashing the party"?
Actually, I said, "May I crash your party," thinking I was being charming.
Sounds right. And you brought some food?
I brought some homemade pizza bread, yes.
And Miss Lambert accepted that and added it to the rest of the party favors.
She directed me toward the dining room. I put it in on the table. And then turning and coming back, I met her again in the living room itself. We stopped and chatted for a bit.
What did you say to her, and what did she say to you when you stopped and chatted?
She hadn't seen me in some time, and last year I underwent some medical treatments and had lost my hair. And she commented on the fact that my hair had grown in and asked how I was feeling and how I was doing. That was a very brief moment, and then I turned to go toward the guest restroom to wash my hands. They'd gotten a bit soiled in bringing this food in. And there were quite a number of people in this narrow area. The statue was approximately 12 to 15 inches tall on about a 24-inch base, not tacked down or waxed down, sitting on carpet and padding. And when I excused myself and went around behind Mrs. rather than cut through two conversations, I didn't see the thing. The crowd moved and it was knocked over with my purse on my hip.
You felt terrible?
Of course I felt terrible.
Of course. You have homeowners insurance?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this statute covered under your homeowner's policy?
No, it was not. We have a large number of fine art objects in our home, and my husband and I consider ourselves self-insured. We invite people into our home who we trust.
Well, there's no reason not to trust Miss Stames. She did not purposely knock over your statue. It was an accident.
Yes, it was.
You didn't expect her to pay $5,000 for your statue, do you?
Yes, I do.
She's not going to. I'm going to tell you why. Because while she may not have been an invited guest at the beginning, you invited her in by permitting her to remain because she asked the question. The question was, may I crash your party?
I don't recall the may.
Even if she said, I'm crashing your party, all you had to do was say to her, I'm sorry, you cannot.
You're
Instead,
correct.
according to you, you took her offering and never said to her, I'm sorry, you have to leave. And therefore, she became an invited guest. If she had negligently or purposefully damaged something in your home, she would have been responsible.
This was done negligently and
No, it
carelessly.
was not. When you have 15 or more people in a living room, the possibility exists that something that's laid out on a table is going to get brushed off by someone inadvertently.
If I may, Your Honor, for your consideration,
Sure.
I have prepared a scale drawing of our living room area.
I'm not interested in your
A
scale
photo.
drawing. Just pay attention, madam. If you have something valuable in your home that is uninsured, you take it and you put it in a safe place when you have a party.
It wasn't a safe place.
No, it was not in a safe place, because if it was in a safe place, unless she took her body and lunged into it.
Which she very possibly could have.
But you have no proof that she did that, Miss
I do
Lambert.
have an eyewitness, Mr. Brown. Saw her
Mr.
knock it
Brown,
over.
come up here, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Mr. Brown, now let's be very careful with each other, sir. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, I do.
Did you see this woman go over and knock over?
Case number 497 on the calendar in the matter of Mason versus Campbell. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Miss Mason, how old are you?
I'm 39 years old.
You have children?
3.
How old are they?
12, 13, and 15.
What do you do for a living?
I'm an advertising representative.
According to your complaint, in 2001, you loaned Mr. Campbell, who you were dating, $4,000 to put down as a down payment on a truck.
Yes, I did. Mr. Campbell didn't have a vehicle.
Now, listen to me. I didn't ask you a question yet.
I'm sorry.
And the understanding was that if you loaned him the down payment, he would take care of the rest of the payments, and he would pay you back this $4,000. Mr. Campbell's defense to this action is that it was a gift. Is that right, sir?
That's right, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's do the facts that we know. She put down $4,000 on a truck that was purchased in your name. Is that right?
That's right.
And you took out a car loan for the rest.
That's right.
Now I want you to convince me that this was a gift.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm ready.
Well, I was perfectly happy with the vehicle that I had. She told me that she would like for me to have a nicer truck, and she did not like my truck being parked in front of her house because it was a ranch truck. There was nothing wrong with it. It was an older truck, but I was perfectly fine with it, and it was in good shape. And one day she come home and she said, I got an advance on my check. Let's go look for a truck. So we went and looked for a truck.
Okay, so she said to you, I want to go look for a truck. And what did you say to her?
I said, that's fine. So we went and looked. And it just happened to be that day we found one. And I told her it was too much because we already found out the bank would only loan me $15,000.
When did you find that out?
Like 2 or 3 days before, I believe.
Well, what were you even checking into that for, sir, if you didn't want a new truck?
Because she had mentioned it prior to this.
What do you mean she had mentioned it prior to this?
She just wanted me to have a nicer truck. And I said, I don't even think I can get approved for the loan.
You said, I don't even think that I can get approved for the loan, but I'm going to check and find out. And then you called to see.
Yes, she asked me to go
So
down
it
there.
wasn't that she just came home one day and said to you, I want to go buy you a truck. this is a discussion that you had had with her previously,
Yes, ma'am.
and that you actually went so far as to call up to find out how much money you could get on a loan.
Yeah, to check my credit, see how bad
Right.
it was.
Keep going.
And we went and looked that evening, and we found a truck, and I thought it was too much.
Look at me.
I thought it was too much. And so she was good with bargaining with people, and she knew the owner. So we went and we talked to them. She got the truck down to what she thought was reasonable.
Well, what did you think? Don't you have a brain?
Yes.
And what did you
Yes.
think?
I thought it was still a little too high.
Is that what you told her?
Yes.
So you said it's too much.
It's too much.
Too much. Can't do it.
That's right.
That's what you said.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So we signed the paperwork. I signed the paperwork. She got it to where she
Well,
thought.
why would you sign the paperwork if you said no, it's too much?
Because she said she was going to put the down on it. I said, are you sure that's what you want to do? And she goes, yes, it's no problem. So that's what we did.
So that was in May of 2001.
2001.
What happened after that? How long did you stay together after that?
We stayed together approximately a year.
You lived together?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
No.
When did you stop living together?
We stopped living together approximately August of 2001.
Does that sound right, sir?
It could be. I'm not very good with dates, Your Honor.
Well, try years.
I'm sorry.
Don't get sorry. Try to get intelligent. May 2001 is when you bought the truck.
Yes.
How much after that did you and the plaintiff separate?
Well, we separated a few times in between. We were off and on, off and on, off and on.
When was the last time that you actually lived together, I assume, in her home?
It had been last year in, I'd say, June.
Is that right?
No, ma'am.
Has he stayed in your house since August of 2001?
He came and stayed at my house in December of 2001 for about 4 days.
Why?
I felt sorry for him because his dad had kicked him out.
Is he a drinker?
No.
Does he use drugs?
No.
Why did his dad kick him out?
They live in an old trailer in
I don't care if they live in an old
Wasco,
trailer.
and
Why?
they just always got in fights and arguments.
Right.
And he came and stayed at my house, and I said, I'm sorry, I can't have you here. I was only going to let him stay for a couple days. And
You know,
it
there
looked
was
like
some
he
other
getting
trouble
very
with him, too, was there not, Miss Mason, that you seemed to allude to in your complaint, people looking for him for money?
Yes.
When was that?
It was in September of 2001. The first case was he owed some money for a horse, and I had given him the money already. It was a horse for my daughter, and I wasn't aware that he hadn't paid the man. And he came in my house hostile, and I said, I'm sorry, I don't know where Jeff is at. And I own a 30-foot camping trailer at Aljo with 2 pop-outs, and the guy did not believe me that it was mine. And so I had to literally pull out my paperwork of the lease and show it to him that it was not Jeff's, because he wanted to put a lien against it. Then we had a girl come to the door. She threatened to tear my vehicle apart and repossess anything that I had, because he told her it was his home, his vehicles, and he felt sorry for me and my children, so he was letting us stay there. And that's how he got people to let him live in their homes.
You mean, and after this, you let him come back to your house in December? Why?
I felt sorry for him.
He already left you holding the bag for $4,000. Why would you feel sorry for him?
I'm just a nice person.
Okay. Who are you?
His ex-girlfriend. Part of this is true and part of it's not true. Jeff and I got together early November of 2001. We were together for approximately a month. Dina came to my home and started calling my home, harassing him, calling him, wanting him back.
Wanting him back or wanting her money?
Wanting him back. She did
Really?
not want money. She never brought up anything about money for the longest time.
Did you speak to her?
Yes, I did.
Well, tell me about the conversation you had with her in November of 2001.
That they were still together. He was living with her. She wanted to know who I was, what was going on between us. And I
Was
said,
he living at your house?
Yes, he was, ma'am.
How much rent was he giving you?
Nothing.
Where did you meet him?
I met him through a friend. We knew quite a few people that were mutual friends.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a cashier.
What does he do for a living?
He's works in the oil fields.
Doing what?
Tearing down the big pumping units.
How often does he do that?
Well, Monday through Friday.
Then what does he do with his money?
He spends it.
On what?
Dirt bikes.
What else?
Clothing, dirt bikes. We eat out.
What else?
That's about it.
Really? I doubt that. I have a good nose for that. Somebody who works construction makes a lot of money. And unless he's supporting a whole gaggle of children, there are only a few things that you get addicted to that prevent you from providing for your own sustenance, like rent and food and clothing and cars and other things. One of them's gambling. I assume he's not a gambler, is that right?
No.
And then there are a couple of other things that you can become addicted to that also take a lot of money.
Ma'am, his dirt bike takes a lot of money.
How much did he pay for the dirt bike?
I don't know how much he paid for the dirt bike. He had it before we got together.
When you say it takes a lot of money, how much is a lot of money?
Well, he's quite frequent with blowing them up, and he spent, I know, of at least $1,000 or more at a time rebuilding it.
What do you mean he blows them up? What does that mean?
He rides them hard and blows the motors up.
Do you have children?
Yes, I do.
How many children do you have?
I have 2.
How old are they?
9 and 4.
Why would you want them around somebody who has a fried brain?
Because I don't believe that he has a fried brain.
He does. He does. He's an amoral person who has a fried brain because he's over 25 years old. He sucks off women, vulnerable women with children who are really trying to, you know, they're living from hand to mouth because it doesn't look to me as if you're a trust fund child, right? So he's sucking off you. He sucked off her. Whenever he gets some money, he blows it on things for himself, and then he doesn't treat those things with any kind of respect. According to you, he'll spend $1,000 on a dirt bike, and he rides it hard and blows up the motor. Well, that's something that somebody might do if they were 15, but not somebody who's in their mid-30s, unless they get women to take care of them and support them. Then he can take all the money he gets from his construction and oil stuff and do with it whatever he wants. Whatever toys he wants to play with, and whatever things that he needs to make him feel good. So if you want to expose your children to a person with that kind of character, that's your problem. That doesn't make you very smart. Do you understand?
Yes.
She wasn't very smart. She got snookered for $4,000. But you're not going to get it back because you got snookered for it. You gave it to him. You didn't loan him this money. He said he wanted it, and you said, I'm going to give it to you. You want to know how I know that? Because if in December of 2001, somebody who had snookered me out of $4,000 and made a fool out of me came to my house and said, I need a place to stay, I would have called the police and said, I have somebody trying to get into my house. Get him away from here.
Ma'am.
That's why. Yes.
On that, as far as that goes, Dina called my cell phone and begged him to come back to her. He was living with me at the time.
Listen, my dear, I've been around a little longer than you have. My eyesight isn't so good. I look at him and I see nothing that I would wipe my feet on. Do you understand?
Yes.
So the fact that the two of you seem to be enthralled with him, maybe he has some hidden attribute that certainly I don't see, You want him, that's your business. There was no loan. You bought him a truck. Get over it. Your case is dismissed.
Thanks, Doc.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He was hoping he wouldn't have to put it down.
She just thought she had to have a nicer vehicle in front of her house. Well, she had one for a while. Now she don't.
He said he would give it back to me in a couple days. It never happened.
Just got tired of her and the crap.
He got so much self-confidence having the vehicle, he ended up with about 4 girlfriends to go with it.
I'd rather be with my bikes. I'm an adrenaline junkie.
Date someone who has responsibility.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Cleary versus Gray. Step forward, please.
Homemaker Sandy Cleary and her son, 5-year-old Nicholas, are suing their neighbor, accounts receivable clerk Cynthia Gray. Sandy claims Cynthia's dog bit Nicholas in the face.
Miss Cleary, this is your little boy?
Yes, sir.
What's your name?
Nicholas.
Nicholas, why don't you come up here? You're going to sit right up here next to me.
There you go.
Nicholas, how old are you?
5.
You know who I am?
It's Judy.
Right. Do you ever watch me on television? You know what it is to be in court? Is this court where you are now? Okay. You know you have to tell the truth when you're in court, right? Okay, Nicholas, you just sit there. I'll be back to you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The fence doesn't work too well. The gate doesn't work too well. Where were you?
It happened so quickly.
So where was he when it happened?
The gate had opened. He went inside.
And you weren't close enough, Miss Cleary.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Sandy Cleary says neighbor Cynthia Gray's dog bit her 5-year-old son Nicholas in the face.
Show me where you were bitten, Nicholas.
On my nose.
On your nose? Looks okay to me. Is it all better now? It's all better? Good. Ms. Cleary, you and the defendant are neighbors, and according to your complaint, one of her dogs bit your son.
Correct.
You want her to pay you $5,000 for whatever. Pain, suffering, a whole bunch of other things. How far away do you live from Mrs. Gray?
We have an apartment complex that we live in, and there's a home dividing Cindy's home to our apartment complex.
She lives in a private house?
Correct.
With a yard?
Correct.
With a fenced yard?
Yes.
How high is the fence?
It's probably about Nicholas's height, maybe a little bit taller.
And what kind of dogs does she have?
She has a medium-sized dog, mixed breed, and a little Chihuahua-sized dog.
Okay, and her dogs are behind the fence?
Correct.
Always behind the fence, unless she's walking them.
Well, not so correct on that one. Sometimes the dogs are free to either get out with the children also in the neighborhood to go in.
No, the children don't go in, I assume, unless their parents are with them.
Well, Cindy has also a young son, and my children, as well as other neighborhood children, have been able to go into the backyard to see if he's there to play.
Okay.
Versus the front door, actually.
No, but you wouldn't allow your 5-year-old to go there.
No.
Of course not. So, on what date was Nicholas bitten?
September 10th.
And where were you?
I was in the front yard of our apartment complex.
And who was with Nicholas?
His little friend, Lily.
How old is Lily?
She's the same age.
So you have 2 5-year-olds. And you were watching them?
Yes.
Well, tell me what happened.
Well, what happened was Nicholas and Lily both had asked if they could go see Nina and Riley.
Nina and Riley are the 2 dogs?
The 2 dogs, correct.
Yes.
And I said that would be okay, but it didn't look as if anybody was home and to please not go into the fence, as children always do. And he said okay, and the last I knew, he went to go and see the dogs, and then he started screaming.
Just a minute. When he and Lily, also age 5, went over to the defendant's home, could you see your son?
No, Your Honor, I could not.
Why not?
Because, I mean, it's very close quarters. Her driveway goes back a little further than where ours does.
Yes.
It happened very quickly. My older son had also gone over there with them.
Where's your older son?
He's not here today. He didn't see what happened as well.
Then I don't need him here. So what you're saying is your son went into her yard?
Yes. The gate has never been a real well-shutting gate.
That's not the issue, whether it's shut well or not. Ms. Cleary, you are the parent.
Correct.
You have a responsibility. You have a 5-year-old child. Your 5-year-old child should not be out of your sight when playing out in the street. And if your 5-year-old child comes to you and says, I want to go and play with the 2 dogs, and you believe, as you said, that the defendant is not home or that nobody is home, you get off your duff and you get up and you say, you want to go and see the dogs, I will go with you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Madam, this is your fault. This is not the defendant's fault. She has 2 dogs. Her dogs are behind a fence, well protected. If your son hadn't gone into the yard, your son would not have gotten bitten. And you just told me that the fence doesn't work too well, the gate doesn't work too well. Where are you? I mean, you're out talking to a friend? It's your job to watch him. And if you were negligent in taking care of your own son, don't blame anybody else.
Your Honor, I am not blaming anybody else. It happened so quickly. I instructed him that he could only pet the dogs over the fence, as he always does. The children and him, they always pet the dogs.
So where was he when it happened?
The gate had opened. He went inside.
Then you weren't close enough, Miss Cleary.
I disagree, Your Honor, but...
Well, that's your prerogative to disagree. I'm telling you, it's your fault. It's not her fault. Your son went into her property, and you were outside, and it's your responsibility to take care of your child. It's not her responsibility to take care of your child. And you had the opportunity to do that by taking him by the hand with his friend Lily, walking him over to the fence, saying, I want to go and pet the dogs. Fine. Don't go into the yard, because you don't know what 2 5-year-olds do. 2 5-year-olds don't always have judgment. And this is a situation where you're looking to blame somebody else for your negligence, malfeasance, lack of proper parenting, and you're not going to do that here. Your case is dismissed. You were wonderful, Nicholas. Goodbye.
This is our excuse. You may seat, please.
Navel, is that how you pronounce your name?
Navel.
Ms. Navel, according to what I've read in your complaint, You and the defendant, according to you, lived together for about 3 months.
Yes.
It is your claim that he owes you for rent, that he owes you for a plane ticket that you loaned him the money for, and that he stole some money out of your ATM.
Correct.
Mr. Sullivan says he doesn't owe you any rent because he never really lived with you, and plane ticket was a gift, and he doesn't know anything about money stolen from your ATM.
Yep.
When do you claim he moved in with you?
Your Honor, I met the defendant on February 16th of 2002. He moved in with me approximately 2 weeks later.
Why?
At the time, he was living in a town about 45 minutes from where I lived, and he was living in a house with 5 other guys.
So, you know him 2 weeks. How old are you?
29.
So you're an intelligent woman, you're not a baby. You let somebody move in with you after knowing him for 2 weeks.
Because I just wanted to see him more, and that was the only way we could see each other.
He lived 45 minutes away?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's not such a long distance. Okay, so we moved in sometime in March?
Yes.
And?
And at the time, everything was going well. Actually, about 3 weeks after we met, he told me that he loved me, and I pretty much fell for him, head over heels, in love with this guy. He had been married, divorced, has 2 children. I have a child myself, so I have a big heart for someone with kids. He seemed to really love his kids, be genuine.
How many times did you see him with his children in that 3-week period?
Never, Your Honor. They live in Idaho.
Right. Very easy to be loving long distance. You mean he talked about them lovingly?
Yes. Yes, he did.
All right. What was the rent arrangement according to you?
It was $500 a month that we had agreed on, a flat rate.
How much was your
cover
rent?
Everything. I own a home. My mortgage is $694.
Your mortgage is $694. You were going to charge this guy that you were head over heels in love with $500?
Well, I am still a single mother trying to make it on my paycheck.
Shh, just a second. Does it sound like I said something that was adverse to your position?
No, ma'am.
Had anyone lived with you before?
No.
Okay. Go ahead. What else?
On March 16th, which was the defendant's birthday, he was fired from his job for getting in a fight with his boss.
So?
From then on, Mr. Sullivan never got another stable employment. He got fired from a concrete job after a week for getting in a fight.
So?
And then he said that he had a job working the second shift, which he never had. Which
So?
he took my car and went to work every night, and he never had that job.
So?
So I never saw any of the money that I was supposed to get for my rent. Because I thought that he had a lot of strengths. I thought he would get his act together and get a job.
Fine. Then you said live here and you don't have a job, so you can't pay rent. Come on. Let's move on to the more important parts of your claim.
At the time that he was living with me, he wanted to go see his daughter for her birthday in Idaho.
All right. Now, is this before or after he lost his job?
This is before I bought the ticket before.
What was the date you charged it on your credit card?
I don't know when I bought the ticket. I don't have the stub.
You charged this on what?
On my Visa.
Then you get a bill from Visa every month.
Right. When I looked through all my bills, they weren't there. But what had happened while Mr. Sullivan was living with me is that when he overdrafted my ATM account and he was not employed, he was at my home when the mail would come conveniently, and he disposed of everything that he thought would incriminate him as far as to the fact that he was stealing money from my account. So I never knew that he was stealing the money because I didn't get any of the overdraft statements, and my balance in my statement book said I had money.
I'm talking about your Visa bill, madam.
I know. I don't know.
That's different.
Maybe
so,
he took it.
You're doing a lot of chatter.
Maybe he took it.
You're doing a lot of chatter. Your overdraft statement from your bank is different from your Visa bill.
Well, maybe he took my Visa bill.
Maybe
I don't
he
know.
did. Maybe he did. And maybe he didn't. But don't try to double talk me. You know, I may have a little sore throat today, but I'm not stupid. It hasn't affected my brain. I asked you what happened to your Visa bill, and you tell me about stealing your overdraft statements. All right, now get to the last part of your claim.
The last part of my claim is my ATM card. When the defendant was living with me, when I would come home from work, he would say, I got to go get milk. Can I borrow your car? I'd say, sure. And he would take my car, which he knew had my purse in there. I didn't bring my purse, and I had a locked garage. I'd just leave my purse in the car. And he would use my card every time that he was going to the store, supposedly to get milk or chew or alcohol, I don't know. But he would ask to use my car, and I didn't think there was any harm in that. I let him use my car.
Did you use her card?
Only when she was with me. That's how, I mean, I had her PIN number because she gave it to me. I didn't just
That's a lie, Your
get
Honor.
it out of anywhere.
Well, just a second. So it's a lie that he has your PIN number?
Well, he...
No. Just answer my question. It's a lie that he has your PIN number?
Yes, by fault.
By fault. What does that mean by fault?
That means that we went to withdraw money one night, and he was driving the car, so he was on the side of the ATM machine. I gave him my card. I did tell him my number.
So then you told him your number.
Right, by fault. I never intended for him to use it at any other time.
What proof do you have that he used your ATM card?
I have my statements from the bank, and all I know is that I was not the one who withdrew that money. And it was all within a period that he was living with me, and I have my bank statements here if you'd
I don't
like
have
to
to
see
look
them.
at them unless they have his picture on it taking out money. Do they?
No.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now tell me about this plane ticket for your daughter.
She knew that I didn't have the money to go see my daughter for...
How did she know that? Did she use a Ouija board or a crystal ball?
And later today...
On his property was a free-for-all, underage drinking party for about 300 people.
Yes, ma'am.
So the idea of this whole party was everyone should get trashed.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Amanda Nabel says 2 weeks after meeting Jared Sullivan, she moved him into her home. Amanda claims Jared hardly paid rent and stole money from her bank account.
Ms. Neville, I've listened to your tale of woe, and your tale of woe speaks volumes of irresponsibility. You meet a guy who's divorced, has 2 kids, doesn't live with them, doesn't see them regularly. After 2 weeks, you invite him to live with you. Within weeks, he has a fight and loses his job. You continue to support him. According to you, he's got a whole different story.
Well, he says he didn't live with me, but... Okay, I have proof that mail came to my
Just a
house
second.
for him.
I'm talking. You're not listening. So it means if you're not listening, you're going to make this mistake over and over and over again if you haven't made it before. So after 2 weeks, you invite this love of your life, who could be an axe murderer for all you know, into your home where you have a young child. Then you start supporting him. Then after he loses his job, and he's not paid, he hasn't paid you any money yet, he wants to visit. And one of his children doesn't have any money to do it. According to you, you pay for it. Then you're the only person that I know keeps a pocketbook in a car. I have a garage. Birds, your wife have a garage?
We have a garage.
Well, but you don't carry a purse, do you?
No.
So when your wife gets out of her car in the garage, she takes her purse in the house with her?
Generally speaking, yes, Judge.
Unless she forgets it.
If she forgets it, she runs out there and gets it.
Right.
Believe me.
Most normal people don't leave their pocketbook with their credit card or anything else in a garage. They bring it inside so that they know where it is. So I'm not even sure if I believe you, because women usually have a lot of things in their pocketbook, including their lipstick. So you may not need your wallet all the time, but you need your lipstick all the time. So you bring your pocketbook inside so you have all your things around you. According to you, that's how he got hold of your ATM card. And then he stole your mail with this intricate plan so you wouldn't see the overdraft. All of that may be true, but you can't prove it. So if he's a scoundrel, he gets away with it. Are you a scoundrel, Mr. Sullivan?
No, ma'am, I'm not.
So let's turn to you. You say you weren't living with her. You say you were living someplace else. Where were you living?
I was living right outside of Colorado Springs.
Were you paying rent there?
No, I was not. My boss, my
just a
company
minute,
did.
just a minute. You weren't paying rent.
No.
Your Honor, I have mail that came to my house for him.
I didn't ask you to interrupt.
Sorry.
So you are one of the few people in this country who manages to live rent-free. Is that what you're telling me, Mr. Sullivan?
I pay rent now where I live now.
I'm not talking about now.
In Colorado, I worked for a company, and our employers paid for our rent while we lived and worked there.
Were you a farm worker?
No, I was a construction worker.
During what period of time did you work for them?
December of 2001 to right at the end of March.
Then you lost your job.
Yeah.
Fine. After that, sir, where did you live?
I had a friend, John, that I stayed with, and I'd stay with her.
Mr. Sullivan, I don't look stupid to you, do I?
No, you don't. I would stay with Miss Nabel or...
That's right. That's right.
Your Honor,
Put your
can I say
hand down.
Sorry.
And when you stayed with her since you lost your job, you weren't paying any rent, is that right?
No, I wasn't.
Now tell me about this plane ticket for your daughter.
She knew that I didn't have the money to go see my daughter for...
How did she know that? Does she use a Ouija board or a crystal ball?
I don't know. She...
What do you mean you don't know?
She
Of course
knew
you
it because
know.
I didn't work.
Well, she must have known that that's what you wanted to do, is that right?
Yeah.
Who told her that? That's what I'm asking you, sir. The Ouija board or the crystal ball? Look at me, Sullivan.
I didn't... Yeah.
Who told her that you wanted to go and visit your
I
daughter?
told her that.
Judge, I told her that I wanted to go and visit my daughter for her birthday and I didn't have any money. Does that sound right to you?
Yes, that sounds...
All right.
So...
No, I want to hear you say it. Now I've given you a hint.
I had told her that I had no money and I'd like to go see my daughter for her birthday.
That sounds right. And?
She had gotten on the internet at her parents' house and put a bid on a plane ticket and put it on her credit card.
And what did you say to her?
Thank you.
And you went to see your daughter?
Yes, I did.
What did you bring her for her birthday?
Is
not an answer.
Some toys and a birthday card.
How'd you pay for them? Is not an answer.
I don't recall how they got paid for.
Try to think how you paid for them.
Amanda probably helped buy them. I don't really remember.
Where are you working now, Mr. Sullivan?
I'm a welder.
And how much money do you make?
$13 an hour.
So that's not bad money, right?
No.
So why don't you pay Miss Nibble back for the plane ticket?
We never had an agreement prior to that, so...
I'm not sure that you did or you didn't, but that's what a reasonable person does, right?
Yeah.
Good. Miss Nebel, the rent, if you had an agreement, you forgave because he wasn't working. You have absolutely no proof that he took money out of your ATM. The only thing that we seem to agree on is that there was a plane ticket for his daughter. He didn't have any money. He asked you if you could get it for him. And in all probability, he said to you, as soon as I can, I'll pay you back. So that's what you're getting. You're getting the cost of the plane ticket. Judgment for the plane ticket. That's all.
Parties are excused.
Wise up, madam. You have a child. You don't bring a stranger into your house when you don't know their character after 2 weeks. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Mr. Sullivan went in there and lied just like I figured he would.
I'm sorry it all had to end the way it did.
My ex-friend and coworker came over and told me that they were having an affair and sleeping together.
All hogwash.
I figured that I was pretty much taken at that point.
She fell in love with me right from the get-go, and it wasn't my fault.
I took a chance on love and I lost.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Monroe versus Paul. Step forward, please.
21-year-old construction worker Edward Monroe is suing 21-year-old student T.J. Paul for the cost to fix his truck. Edward says while attending a party on T.J.'s property, the vehicle was destroyed by fellow partygoers.
Mr. Monroe, it is your claim that the defendant is responsible for your truck having been destroyed.
Yes, ma'am.
It is not your claim that necessarily he did it.
Right.
But that your truck was destroyed on his property and therefore he should be responsible. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
What I gather is on his property that day and evening was a free-for-all, drunken, underage drinking party for about 300 people. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you went there to drink, cavort, party with these 300 people. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And it was there that your car got trashed.
Yes, ma'am.
Had you ever been to a party there before?
Yes, ma'am.
So you knew what to expect when you went? No, you knew what to expect.
Right.
Numbers-wise and people drinking. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to tell me about it. Tell me about the party.
All right. When
Tell me when you got there, how many people were there. Just tell me all about it.
Other than the person that was holding the party and one other person, I was the second or third person there.
Did you provide your own liquor?
Yes, ma'am.
How much liquor did you come with?
I come with
Look
probably.
at me.
I've come with probably a fifth and a 12-pack of beer.
The other people, when they came, did they also bring their own liquor?
I believe so.
And by about 11 o'clock at night, how many people were there?
100, 200, at least. It was
maybe
it was the biggest
300.
party I've been to that he's had.
Had you finished your 12-pack of beer?
No, but I had finished my bottle, though.
The whole bottle?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what about the catering? Was there catering? Food?
No, ma'am, there wasn't no food.
No chips or anything else? Chips and dips? I mean,
just
crudité?
alcohol.
Just alcohol. So the idea of this whole party was everyone should get trashed, right?
Pretty much, yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see pictures of your truck.
All right.
Why is that shoe on the table?
There's pictures in there of footprints, and that's the shoes I was wearing that night. Just to let the record clear that that wasn't my footprints on the truck.
Huh? Oh, it looks like your truck got pretty well trashed.
Yes, ma'am.
Look at that. You're not going to go there for any more parties, are you?
No, ma'am. I haven't been to no party since then.
That's a good idea. You have no way to get there. Could you get that shoe off there? I'm not interested.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, and I see they built bonfires.
There was a fire. Yes, ma'am.
Did you help build the fire?
It was already going when I got there.
Did you help stoke the fire?
No, ma'am.
What did you do with the fire?
I stood
Did you
around
dance
it.
around the fire?
I didn't dance around it, but I stood around it.
Mr. Paul, why do you have these parties on your property, sir?
I guess I was just trying to have a place where everyone could go and have a good time and not have to worry about getting caught or getting in trouble. It was out of the way. It was in the woods. And
Is that your property?
it's my father's property.
Where's your father?
He was at home. He didn't come to the party. He didn't know about it.
He didn't know about it.
No. He does know that I have had parties out there. He just doesn't know when I have them.
Do you know that if somebody gets hurt on your property where you're having one of these parties, if your father knows about it, he could be held responsible for their injuries? Did you know that?
Yes, ma'am.
So why do you put your father at risk?
Well, I had to learn the hard way after all of this.
Have you had any parties since?
No.
That's a really good idea. But Mr. Monroe, you went to the party there voluntarily to drink, to get drunk.
Yes, ma'am.
Your truck got destroyed. What do you want from him? He didn't do it.
Well, it was his property.
You didn't have to go there. Nobody dragged you there.
No, but he knew I was there. I was one of the
You
first
knew you
people
were there too.
Right. Yeah.
Unless you were so drunk. By the way, how did you plan on getting home?
I didn't. There's pictures, sleeping bags. I was going to stay the night. I was sleep in my truck, so I didn't have to drive.
Well, that's at least that was using common sense.
Yeah, nobody needs a DUI.
Right. Nobody needs a burned-out truck either.
That's
but if
correct.
you go to a party with 300 people who are all drinking and getting drunk, you got
Well,
to
none of the
know
other
that the
parties have
potential
ever-
is there to cause trouble. So why is he more responsible than you are? He's not. Not in my eyes. If you're stupid enough to go to a 300-plus person drunken free-for-all and bring your truck, you stand the risk of somebody damaging your truck. And if you want to do it, don't look for somebody else to be responsible. Be responsible yourself. Goodbye, Mr. Monroe.
All right.
Parties are excused. You may. Your Honor, this is case number 425 on the calendar in the matter of Hauerstein versus Hauenstein. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks have seats.
Ms. Hauenstein, the defendant is your stepdaughter.
Correct.
Is your husband here today?
Yes, he is.
How long have you been married?
April 2002.
According to your claim, your stepdaughter assaulted you in a bar.
Right.
She said that she was merely defending herself and you hit her first. Is that right?
No, she hit me first, and then I spilled beer on her first, and then she hit
She
me.
hit you first?
Yeah.
You were retaliating?
Yeah.
How long did you know her father before you married?
About 3 years.
Did you get along with the daughter?
She's the one that introduced us.
Really?
Yes.
Well, at what point did the friendship with her become a negative?
Probably right after we got married. She realized that money was going to stop, that Dad was going to stop bailing her out, and that was my fault. So shortly after we were married.
When was this alleged assault?
October 26th.
Tell me about it.
I had gone to a bar in another town with my friend Glee. We got there about 9 o'clock. Approximately 9:30, the defendant and a girlfriend walked in. All night long, they proceeded to flip me off and very immature and childish. About 11:30, I told my friend she had a cell phone. I said, go call my husband, tell him I'm ready to go home. She comes back from the restroom. She said, he'll be here in about a half an hour. About 20 minutes later, the DJ announces that they're starting the big contest. We had no idea what it was even involving. By this time, people are standing. I can't see anything. My friend Glee stands up. They start the contest. She comes down and she said, oh my gosh. And I said, what? She said, your stepdaughter was just on the dance floor, totally naked. And I said, excuse me? By this time, I feel a tap on my shoulder and my husband's standing there. He asked me what was going on. I said, I don't know, I didn't see, but Glee just told me that Christina was naked on the dance floor. Well, the contest proceeds.
What kind of contest was it?
It was a
temporary tattoo contest.
Go ahead.
So she comes back, she won the contest for a t-shirt. Looks over her shoulder, sees her dad standing there. She looks at her friend, she starts to giggle, and she says, oh, my dad's here. So she comes running over to talk to him, and he put his hands up like this. And she's, Dad, Dad, and he put his hands up like this and he said, you know, Christina, you made me really proud tonight. And she snapped. She lost it. She was screaming at him, F you, I hate you, you're worthless. And then she went through everybody that was with us. And F you, and F you, and F you. And I stood up. I put my coat on. I said, you've drawn enough attention to yourself. I'm taking my husband. We're leaving. I went to take a drink of my beer. She smashed my hand. The beer went all over me, the floor, everyone. I went to throw my beer back at her. The glass fell off the front of my hand. She claims it hit her in the chin. Turned around to walk out. She picked up half a pitcher of beer and slammed it, hit me in the right here in the head, and we left.
Do you have any medical records?
I do.
Let's see them, please.
Yeah, pictures, ma'am.
I do.
What kind of work do you do?
I work at Best Buy. I'm a laborer, and I work part-time as a bartender.
How old are you?
24.
Who do you live with?
Myself.
What time did you get to the bar on the evening of the 26th of October?
It was probably after 10.
Did you come there directly that evening from home?
I stopped up at the bar that I worked at and met Jack up there, and then we went out there.
Was there a contest that night at the bar?
Yes, there was.
Was it a contest where you had any part of your clothes off? The answer is either yes or no. It's very easy to find out. All I have to do is call the bar. The answer is yes or no.
Yes, I had my clothes off.
Would it be a fair statement that in order to get what appears to be, you know, a reasonably intelligent young woman on bar dance floor, have her take her clothes off, she would have had to be a little bit drunk?
Yes, I was.
That would be a fair statement?
Yes, I was.
Had you ever done that before?
No.
Would it be a fair statement that when you saw your father there, that you were a little embarrassed?
No, I didn't even know he was there.
After, I said, when you saw your father there.
No, I wasn't embarrassed.
Not at all?
No.
Then you would have had to have been really drunk.
No, because it has nothing to do with him. It's me, not him. So I'm not embarrassed by it. I did what I did. I can't take it back.
But you wouldn't have done it if you weren't drunk?
Probably not.
Your stepmother was injured as a result of you hitting her on the back of the head with a pitcher. And it's clear to me that you started it.
Somewhat, yes.
Because even according to you, you spilled beer on her by tapping her glass.
I didn't tap her glass. I picked someone's beer up off the bar and threw it on her. I wasn't.
Oh, okay.
There was
even worse.
But
even worse.
It was just the beer. I didn't throw the glass at her.
Even worse. I don't care what it is. You started it. And according to these photographs and the medical records, you finished it. And if you can't control your liquor, don't drink. Period. Because if you think that most normal people would say that a 24-year-old intelligent young lady who is self-supporting, works 2 jobs, lives by herself, whether that it's reasonable and normal behavior for her to get up in front of a whole bunch of strangers and take her clothes off is normal behavior. I'm telling you it is not. Not normal behavior, is it?
Not in my book.
Not in mine either.
Coming up on Judge Judy.
She accused my dad of sleeping with my best friend, and I said something to her about it. She dragged me outside with her and my dad and told me that my dad called me a worthless, good-for-nothing person. That's why they won't have another kid.
And later today,
you started sending her letters that you wanted your money. She says, you're not my lawyer.
She recognized me as her lawyer. And
did you recognize him as your lawyer?
I never spoke with him.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Melanie Howenstein says stepdaughter Christina Howenstein assaulted her in the middle of a nightclub. Melanie says Christina was so drunk she got naked on stage.
What kind of problem do you have with her?
I've really never had a problem with her. We got along fine. Then we've been having a shaky relationship for 3 years since they've known each other.
Why?
I don't have any idea. I have no clue whatsoever. We got along for 10 months. I was happy that they got married. I don't care that they're married. That's their life. I have nothing to do with it. I don't want them divorced. My father said they were going to get divorced because of this whole situation, and I told him not to because I don't live there. It has nothing to do with me.
Good. Perfect.
No problems, but I don't know. This whole thing has been building up and building up. Like her birthday, she accused my dad of sleeping with my best friend, and I said something to her about it because she does it all the time. And I guess that irritated her because she dragged me outside with her and my dad and told me that my dad called me a worthless, good-for-nothing person. That's why they want to have another kid. So
that's why they what?
They want to have a kid together. So that's why they wouldn't have another kid, is to make up for me being a bad seed. So.
Well, that's a ridiculous statement. Listen, try to get along with each other. Life is very short. If you're not best friends with your stepmother, be cordial with your stepmother. Where is your biological mother?
Not in the picture.
Not for a long time. Yeah, so you have no contact with her?
I see her probably 3 times a year, if that.
Okay, you had more of a relationship with your father?
Yes.
Well, don't throw that away. In any event, you're responsible for these medical bills that she had to pay because you started this argument physically. You ended it physically. She was injured. Medical records are clear. You owe $941. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was just a temporary tattoo contest. Just no big deal. Just me out having fun doing what I like to do.
There was problems long before I was involved, and she needs someone to blame it on, and I guess I'm the easy target.
My father and I do not talk anymore.
Even if I'm not involved, I think he needs to have a relationship with his daughter.
I want nothing to do with her. I'm not going to talk to him because it'll get back to her about me saying stuff, and it's all going to get twisted around like it has been in the past, so I'm not even going to bother.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lovell versus Carson. Step forward, please.
Attorney Warner Lovell is suing his former client, 27-year-old ticketing agent Diane Michelle Carson, for failure to pay for services in a custody battle. Michelle says she never hired him.
Mr. Lovell, you are an attorney.
That is correct.
And it is your claim that the defendant retained you in a custody proceeding to represent her and that she has an outstanding bill that she wanted to pay.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Ms. Carson says that she never retained you, that her mother, if anyone, retained you in this custody proceeding, and aside from that, you failed to show up in court on the day of the hearing. Is that your defense?
Yes.
I gather, Ms. Carson, that this whole case started with a custody proceeding involving your former husband some 6 or 7 years ago.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you have 2 small children.
Yes.
According to what I read in your answer, you lost custody to your husband.
Yes.
And your husband remarried. And recently he was dispatched to go into active duty, leaving the 2 children with their stepmother. And it was your desire to regain custody of the children, even temporarily, while their father was in the active military, rather than leaving them with their stepmother. That's what the lawsuit was about.
Yes.
And now, Mr. Lovell, I would like you to tell me when Miss Carson came to see you, how she was referred to you. I'd like to see the retainer agreement that she signed.
Your Honor, she came to me on or about June 18, 2002, the same date that she signed this agreement. Actually, she didn't come into my office. I gave the agreement to my secretary, one of my witnesses here, Diane Galloway, who is the mother of the defendant.
Okay, hold on a second. You took this retainer agreement, which I want to read for a second, and you gave it to your witness, who happens to be the defendant's mother.
Right, but Your Honor...
When it was returned to you, was it returned signed?
Yes.
So your conversations were primarily with her mother, who was your secretary?
That's correct.
Did you sign a retainer agreement with the plaintiff in June?
No, I did not.
Step up, please. Ms. Galloway, you worked for the plaintiff?
Yes.
For how long?
5 years.
Prior to the 18th of June, 2002, did you discuss with the plaintiff your daughter's predicament with regard to her 2 children?
Yes.
When had your daughter first contacted you and told you that the children were going to be with their stepmother?
She didn't contact me. I just knew.
How did you know?
Because I correspond with their father and the stepmother.
When you found out about it, what did you do?
I encouraged her to try to get temporary custody of them.
When did you speak to him?
June the 18th.
Are you telling me that prior to June the 18th you never spoke to him about the situation?
Not as far as in a professional manner, just as far as in corresponding, I would come in kind of depressed or upset or something and, share with him the situation.
Now, in June is when you had the first formal conversation with him, is that right?
That's correct.
And was it at that time that he gave you this retainer agreement?
Yes.
And what did you do with the retainer agreement?
I signed it, and then Michelle signed it.
Where was she when she signed it?
In my kitchen, in my house.
On what date?
September, I'm going to say probably around 21st, 22nd.
Your Honor, may
I don't want you to speak.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The conference with client that you are referring to in your billing statement has to be Miss Galloway. Is that correct?
Yes, but may I explain?
No.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Attorney Warner Lovell says former client Michelle Carson owes for his services involving custody. Michelle says Mr. Lovell was hired by her mother, so she should pay.
Why is it that your daughter didn't sign the retainer agreement until September?
Because the proceedings, the way they were going, we thought we were going to have to, get attorney fees from the defendant. And I couldn't do that because I was not a party to the litigation. So I told her, in order to get attorney fees, you're the party, I'm not, you need to sign this.
Now, when was the hearing in this case?
First one I was involved in was scheduled for June 28, 2002, but we went in a day early, the 27th, at mutual agreement.
Mr. Lovell, between June 18th and September, how many court appearances did you make?
I made that one.
And then?
There was another lawyer involved for the defendant here, and the defendant and her mother wanted someone with more experience. I have 32 years experience.
Shh, Mr. Lovell, who told you that?
Diane Galloway, my witness, told me they wanted someone more experienced. I then communicated with the defendant about this, and I sent her letters. She never responded to one of the letters and indicated
what was the date? What was the date of the letter, sir?
It was September 23rd. Was to her lawyer, my co-counsel, pointing out...
No, Mr. Lovell. Mr. Lovell, sir, let me explain to you where I'm going, and you know
September 23 is the short
You know exactly where I'm going, Mr. Lovell.
Right.
Between June 18th and some date in September that your witness is not sure of, the defendant did not retain you. She retained you.
I disagree with that assessment.
Well, I'm telling you, you may disagree with it, but since I am the final arbiter of what's going on here, you have to accept that, sir. Now, you are suing for work that was done between June and September. I think that your secretary wanted some help with a custody case that she thought was a good idea initially in April. She told her daughter that she thought her daughter should pursue this custody case as opposed to the stepmother. Her daughter retained her own attorney. She signed a retainer agreement with you in June. She did not sign it until September. And all I'm asking you now, sir, is to fill in the blanks for me when you had correspondence with the defendant. Show me.
The first letter I had with her was the 23rd of September. Here's a copy of the letter. I had another one on October 8th. But prior to these letters, I had telephone communications with her, Judge, Your Honor, and she recognized me as her counsel.
Don't tell me she recognized you as her counsel, sir. I don't see that she recognized you as her counsel. You don't have a retainer agreement signed by her until September. And in September, you started sending her letters that you wanted your money. She says, you're not my lawyer. I mean, I'm not asking her any questions. I'm just looking at your paperwork, sir, and listening to your witness.
From August 6th to October 7th, Diane Galloway was out of my office with a wrist injury and surgery. So I was having to communicate some with the defendant directly. She recognized me as her lawyer. And
did you recognize him as your lawyer?
Honor, I never spoke with him. It was always through my mom. My mom would tell me something. I never spoke with this gentleman on the telephone except for one time, and it was a no charge on the billing statement. All of this other billing is conversation with Diane Galloway, conversation with Diane Galloway.
See it, please?
All of the bills.
Can I see it, please? How much did you pay your attorney?
My attorney, $2,000.
What happened with the case?
I lost.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Who paid you your retainer on June 18th?
Diane Galloway paid a $500 retainer on that time. I have a copy of the check she's given.
I believe you.
Okay.
Am I correct that in your statement to this defendant, dated 7/1/02 for the month of June, that when you refer to conference with client, you are referring to Miss Galloway?
Some of those were with Miss Galloway. I had a conversation or two with each one.
Listen to me, sir. You don't say clients. You say client. Did you have a conference with Miss Carson on 6/18? The answer is either yes or no.
No.
So if you did not have a conference, Mr. Lovell, with Ms. Carson on June 18th, the conference with client that you are referring to in your billing statement has to be Ms. Galloway. Is that correct?
Yes, but may I explain?
No. On June 19th, did you have a conference with Ms. Carson?
Not in person.
Are you telling me, sir, that you had a conference on the telephone with Ms.
Candia versus Castro. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Candia, the defendant is your former boyfriend. You lived together for a period of time, and you have a child together.
Yes.
You don't live together anymore, and according to your complaint, he owes you for bail money. He had been arrested on a domestic violence complaint. I assume you were the victim in that domestic violence complaint.
Yes.
And in addition to that, you want him to pay his portion of the remainder of the lease on the apartment that you live in, despite the fact that you put him out of the house. You say he's responsible for it, he's on the lease, he should pay. When was he arrested for domestic violence?
On November 16th.
What were the circumstances of his arrest?
We went to a wedding. It was Julio and my daughter and myself.
How old's your daughter?
She's 1.5 years.
Okay.
And Julio was drinking quite a bit. I asked him to slow down, but he chose not to, and he got pretty intoxicated. He got to the point where he wasn't really coordinated in his walk, so we left, and he started to get belligerent in the car.
So you were driving and he was in the passenger seat?
I have a van, so he was in the back with the baby in the car seat.
What was he doing in the back?
He was yelling a lot of names at me, getting really
nasty.
Yes. And I was concerned about my daughter. She was awake and she saw him acting this way. And I told him to stop. He wouldn't, so I told him to get out of the car. I pulled over, told him to get out. First he refused, and then he got out. And then I realized that we were on a busy street. It was in San Francisco. And knowing that he was not walking right, I didn't want him to get hit by a car, so I came out of the car and I asked him to be respectful to me, and I would, drive him home and stuff like that. And he kept arguing with me, and it turned violent at that point.
What do you mean it turned violent? What happened?
Well, he started to urinate on a tree. And
on a busy street in San Francisco?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds charming.
And I guess he thought it was funny. He started to urinate on my shoe.
Well, he thought it was funny again. Yeah.
He started to urinate on my shoe, and I kind of pushed him away. But I guess he thought I was attacking him, and he just started basically hitting me.
And somebody called the police?
It was 3 ladies in a car were honking the horn at him to stop.
And they must have called the police?
Mm-hmm.
And they came and they arrested you. Is that right, sir?
Yes.
Perfect! Exactly what should have happened, right?
Yes.
You don't think anything else should have happened, right?
No.
You were drunk. You were abusive. You were urinating in public. You were hitting her, pushing her. So you should have been arrested, right?
Yes, Your Honor, but may I?
Sure. I want to hear you.
We have a commitment. We make a commitment to each other. That
no, you didn't. What kind of commitment do you have?
Well, if I drink, she drives, and if she...
Oh, I thought you were talking about a marriage commitment,
No,
sir.
no.
Oh, no. You have a commitment that if you drink, she drives. And if she drinks, you drive.
I drive, right.
Good. So you have an arrangement, not a commitment. A commitment is something that 2 people
Right.
usually have together when they start a family,
Okay,
when
an
they make a
arrangement,
baby.
sorry.
They go to a minister, they go to a rabbi, they go to a priest, they go to a clerk, they get married.
Right.
You do them.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about.
So an arrangement.
You had an arrangement.
Right.
The arrangement was when you drink, she drives you home. So I'm listening. I'm waiting. Let me hear you.
We had similar circumstances when she drinks. She gets
I'm not
violent.
interested in similar circumstances.
Okay.
Did she ever urinate on your foot?
She did worse than that, Your Honor.
I don't want to know.
But I'm not
that.
here for that, right.
I want you to tell me what happened that day
Okay.
that in any way minimizes your fault, your culpability.
Well, I don't feel that I should pay all the money to her.
Very
we went
few
to a
people
wedding.
do.
She started hitting me, and she did this, pulled me out of the car. I wasn't doing anything back there.
I believe she pulled you out of the car. I believe she did. Listen, just because she's very soft-spoken, I don't necessarily buy into that. You understand that, don't you? Huh?
Yes.
I believe that you grabbed him, pulled him out of the car. And that's why he got out. And you have no right to open up your big fresh mouth in front of a baby.
I wasn't doing that, Your Honor.
Well, why would you think, sir, that she would pull you out of the car?
She thought I was on the phone talking to my ex-girlfriend. That's what she pulled.
In the back of the car?
In the van, right.
Were you on the phone?
No. I don't even know my ex-girlfriend's phone number.
Was that true that he was on the phone?
Look at me. He was talking to his son on the phone.
You know anything about a phone call to his ex-girlfriend? Look at me. Right here.
I heard him mention her name, but I asked him.
You did. When did you hear him mention her name?
During the conversation with his son.
With his son?
Yeah.
Did that make you angry? Look.
That's what did.
Did that make you angry?
Yes, I questioned him about it.
Okay. Very good. You see what happens, how the worm turns? We get some information? Good. Now, you questioned him about it. We don't question about it. You got angry.
I did question him about it.
And what did he say to you when you questioned him about it?
Nothing. He really didn't have any answer for me. He just kind of looked cross-eyed to me.
Go ahead.
I'm not a violent person. I'm not somebody that's going to drink. I get happy, if anything. And I feel like she provoked me to do what I did. Whatever I did.
You can't provoke somebody.
Well, you know, and I'm not saying that he was right.
Good. Why don't we just stop there? Nobody can provoke another human being into indulging themselves in violence. You can't do that. Because you're supposed to be able to control yourself. That's what makes us different from animals.
I wasn't screaming in front of my daughter or anything like that. After the phone call is when she started.
My mouth is moving. Mr. Castro, human beings control themselves. Animals can't control themselves. And if you drink to a point where you can't control yourself and you just act out the way you feel, you have to be responsible for that. So 3 ladies in a car were so concerned about what they saw that they called the police and you were arrested. And that was the bail. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why is he responsible for the bail?
I picked him up. I asked him when we were walking across the street to the bailiff's office. I told him how important I needed that money back.
And what did he say?
He told me he promised he would pay me back every single penny.
Is that right?
I don't remember saying that, Your Honor. I started paying her because there wasn't enough money for the bail, and she told me she needed some money, so I said, okay, I'll give you. So I gave her $500. And
afterwards, sir.
Afterwards.
Don't play with me. After she posted the bail, you started to pay her back.
Yes.
Not on your way over to get the bail, afterwards. And how much did you pay her back?
$500.
That's what she says. Now, how long were you in jail, sir?
16 hours, something like that.
Okay, so not long. So you got out on the 17th. When you got out, where did you go?
We went back to the house.
Is that right?
Yes.
When did you leave the house?
10 days later, because it was just
Tell me what happened.
And fightings and
Tell me what happened 10 days later.
Well, from the time I got out of jail, maybe the following day, she just, and I understand, she felt like she didn't want me around, and we just kept arguing every day. You see, I had a 14-year-old, and it was arguing all day in front of the kids, calling each other names, and just, you know, so.
So you decided to leave?
I decided to leave. I thought it was the best thing for both of us.
Probably true.
For the kids.
Are you still living there?
Yes.
Good. Why do you think he should pay for the balance of the lease?
Because he chose to leave, and he's...
No. You didn't want him to stay. And it was dangerous for him to stay. You have a 14-year-old and an infant? Why should they be around constant bickering and quarreling?
True, Your Honor, but, you know, he signed a lease that, you know, he should at least fulfill his lease.
Well, where'd you expect him to live? You can't pay rent at your house and someplace else.
He doesn't pay anything at his son. I don't see why he cannot pay the remainder of the lease.
You should take him to court for child support. He should pay child support.
That's not true, Your Honor. I still pay my son for living there. I don't live there for free.
No. I'm not talking about where you're living now, you pay your son. I'm talking about child support for your baby, sir.
I'm taking care of my baby.
You mean the baby lives with you?
No, I'm helping her with the baby.
What do you mean you're helping her? Tell me.
Giving her money.
How much? It's not an answer.
500.
500 a what?
A month.
When was the last time you gave her $500?
December. I paid the rent that month.
In
I
December?
paid half of the rent, yes.
How much was half of the rent?
$675.
Did he pay half of the December's rent?
Yes, he did.
Okay, what about January?
No.
Why not?
Because we were coming to court.
You have to support your child.
Yes, I do. I know.
She shouldn't have to take you to court to get you to do that. You should do that by yourself. But you have to do that regularly, every week or every 2 weeks or every month.
I never said that I wasn't going to pay child support or I wasn't going to help my daughter.
You have to do it.
I know. I never...
A month went by. So far, I didn't see any money. Where was the money for last month?
I haven't given it to her yet.
Why not?
Well, I was waiting for the court.
What do you mean you were waiting? Child has to eat, right?
Well, she eats all the time. I still go over there and... You know,
Mr. Castro,
I still
Mr.
go
Castro,
to Safeway and get
what
her
you're supposed
food
to do is take care of your responsibilities. Do you understand?
I think I do take care
Well,
of it.
you didn't. A, you didn't take care of your bail. You paid $500 and the bail, according to the plaintiff, was $3,500, leaving a balance of $3,000. Is that right?
Yes.
Let me see the paperwork. So that's not taking care of your responsibility. It's your bail. You acted badly. You failed to control yourself. It's not her bail, it's yours. And you said you would pay her back. And you did give her $500, but then you stopped. I want to know why you stopped. And you have no answer for that? Is this the first time you were arrested for domestic violence, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
First time you were arrested?
No.
When was the last time you were arrested?
1991?
Were you ever incarcerated?
No.
What happened with this case?
He was dismissed. I was supposed to go to court the following Wednesday, and when I showed up for court, they said that the case was dismissed.
Okay. $3,000 he owes you. I don't think he's responsible for the rest of the rent. I think, however, he is responsible for child support. You live there with your 2 children? You have 2 children?
Yes.
Do you get child support for your 14-year-old son?
No.
Why not?
His father's deceased.
So does he get Social Security?
No. He's been deceased since I was 7 months pregnant, so I was very young. I did not do anything about it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
And later today,
She gave up her business to come and volunteer with yours for nothing? She had her own business. You mean to tell me she gave it up? She wasn't in love with you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Rita Candia says during a night out, ex-boyfriend Julio Castro became drunk and belligerent.
You have to start to pay some child support, Mr. Castro.
I don't have a problem with that, Your Honor.
Very good. How much are you going to pay her?
We talked about between $500 and $600.
When was the last time you talked about it?
Maybe about a month ago, 3 weeks ago.
How much money did he give you last month?
Nothing.
Is that right, Mr.
He
Castro?
just gave me maybe diapers.
Right.
Mr. Castro, the first thing I want you to do when you get home is write her out a check. Write her out a check for $500. Because along with certain pleasures that you get from children, you also have responsibilities. So you
I don't have a problem with that.
Then start paying. Do you understand?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I didn't feel like it was all my fault.
I didn't pour alcohol down his throat.
We were both drinking.
When the red flags show, listen to it or walk away from it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Atkins versus Williams. Step forward, please.
Nurse Latricia Atkins is suing her sister-in-law, store owner Alice Williams, for unpaid wages and reimbursement for merchandise. Alice says Latricia was supposed to be a volunteer.
Miss Atkins, the defendant is your sister-in-law. She had been married to your brother who passed away recently. Is that right?
Yes.
When did your brother pass away?
June 2nd of 2000.
How did he die?
Actually, he had a drowning. We don't actually know what really happened.
It is your claim that you went into a partnership with your sister-in-law in a small business. You had been doing some selling at fair,
like swap meets, different people.
And you'd been selling children's clothing?
No, mostly adult clothes.
In any event, your sister-in-law said she was interested in going into a business, and according to you, she put up the money and you put up the skill.
Yes.
And the know-how. And you worked and you kept waiting for profits. There were no profits, she said, because she took care of the books. And you are suing her now for what you believe is your fair share of the work that was done.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Williams says that there was never a partnership. You helped her out. You volunteered out of the goodness of your heart. That there was never an arrangement to share the profits. This was her business and her business only. She put up the money. You put up nothing. And she owes you nothing. That's your position.
Absolutely. With the exclusion of she was a phenomenal help for me. Basically, when I asked her...
I didn't ask you anything yet. Did you say basically
Absolutely,
that's correct?
yes.
Correct. Okay. Tell me about how this business started with your sister-in-law.
Well, I was in school, and I didn't have any income, so I decided to start taking the little money that I did have and start selling clothes. And she approached me at a barbecue at my sister's house in Lancaster and said that, oh, looks like you're doing pretty good. I would like to be basically a silent partner you can go find the place and everything, and which I did. I found the place. And,
Just a second.
Okay.
How long had you been doing your selling before she approached you?
Probably a couple of months. I was doing my own thing.
How much money did you make in the 2 months that you were in business before going into an association with your sister-in-law?
Oh, I was making like maybe close to $200, $300 a week.
$200 or $300
Yes.
a week?
Yes.
Okay. Then she approaches you, and you went and got a different booth?
Yes, she said, you know, I got a little money on the side that I can really, you know, help out, but you can go find the place, and I'll basically be a silent partner.
So did you go find a larger place?
Yes, I went and found a larger place. When? It was September 13th.
Of what year?
Of 2002.
And how many days a week did you work there?
Just 3 days a week.
How many weeks did you work there?
September 13 to November 20th.
Is that about right?
Yes.
You handled the money, is that right?
Yes, I did.
How much money did you, when you were handling the money, turn over to Miss Atkins during that time?
None, because there was...
Just you turned over none. And it is your testimony, Miss Williams, very succinctly, that Miss Atkins gave up her business that she was in for 2 months prior to your approaching her in order to go into your business 3 days a week for approximately 12 weeks as a volunteer. Is that what you want me to believe? I just asking you, is that what you want me to believe?
Yes.
I don't. I don't.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Ms. Williams, makes no sense for someone who has a business making some extra money. I don't know if it was $200 to $300. I'm not so sure about that. Even if it was $50 a day, it is incredible that she would give up her business to go in and work 3 days a week in your business and not expect to be compensated. It's ridiculous. And it's not true. She had her own business. You mean to tell me she gave it up? She wasn't in love with you. She gave up her business to come and volunteer with yours for nothing? It just didn't happen, Miss Williams. You took advantage of her. So you got to pay for that. Do you look like you're losing?
No.
Now, it's going to be absolutely impossible for me to go back and to say to you, well, what merchandise did you have? What did you sell it for? Because that would have been a partnership. You put up the money. She goes in there and devotes her time. But certainly $50 a day is an appropriate amount of money to pay somebody who works 8 hours a day. And that you're going to pay her. So far, she owes you $1,320. Anything else?
No, thank you very much.
Good. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Ms. Benson, according to your complaint, you and the defendant were very good friends and decided to rent an apartment together. Both signed the lease for 1 year. Problems arose very early on. Within a few months, the defendant became impossible to live with. She finally moved out. You were, according to you, forced to sign an agreement releasing her from the lease, but you say now that you want what she owes you under the lease for half of the rent, and you are also suing her for an assault that you allege occurred after she moved out.
Yes.
The defendant says that you breached an agreement with her with regard to this apartment by having your boyfriend live there, and that forced her to move out, and that you in fact assaulted her, and she is countersuing for the return of her deposit, and she's also suing you for an assault. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. You were friends for 5 years before you decided to live together?
Yeah, best friends.
And in what month did you sign this lease?
October.
Just the two of you?
Yes.
What was the rent?
The rent was $560 a month for the 2-bedroom that we were renting.
And what was the deposit?
It was $250.
And each of you paid the $250?
We split that in half, so each of us paid $125.
Okay. Now, is this the boyfriend?
This is the boyfriend.
How often did the boyfriend stay over?
For the first 2 weeks of the lease, she did not stay there one night. She was at her ex-boyfriend's house.
That's not my question. My question is, how often did your boyfriend stay at the apartment?
6 nights out of the week.
And then?
And then she did not stay there the first 2 weeks of the 1 month that we were living together. And when she didn't come home, because I work full-time, I go to school full-time till 10 o'clock at night. So by the time he did come over, it was 10:30 at night, and if she wasn't there, I wanted him to stay for my safety. I felt safer having somebody stay there with me.
How many nights a week did he stay at the apartment?
6 nights a week.
And how long did you live in the apartment? You? How many months?
1 month.
1 month?
Yes.
And for the 1 month that you actually lived together, he was there all the time?
Yes, ma'am.
And he wasn't paying any rent?
No, ma'am.
That's not right. Why should he live there full time and not pay rent?
He didn't have anything there. He didn't shower there. He didn't bathe there. He didn't do anything.
I'm not talking about his physical hygiene, Miss Benson. I'm talking about the fact another person is living in the apartment and not paying any rent. It's not right that he lived there. And you can't tell me that he never took a shower there.
He took a shower there once. She had another boy take a shower at 3 o'clock in the morning there. She's had 2 different guys there.
You mean living there?
2 different guys at different times.
I'm talking about living there. There's a difference between having a date come over once or twice and having somebody live there.
She had a guy stay there like 4 nights the week. She actually stayed there for the first time.
Okay. You don't get it. Okay, so then you decided, after he's living there, you decided that you wanted out. So you asked her if you could leave.
Well, I specified before I even moved in with her that he could stay over 3 nights a week at the most. I stressed that over and over.
You did talk about it?
Yes. Okay. And when it was a continuance every single night, and I tried to talk to her like adults, and every morning his car was there, his shoes were there. I just felt like I had no privacy.
I got you, Miss Lamb.
Okay.
According to your answer, you asked her if she would sign the papers off releasing you from the lease.
She refused to.
She said no. So you started to be a bad roommate.
Yeah.
What were you doing? Give me some idea of what you were doing.
Not cleaning up after myself.
You did a lot of things that you knew would irritate her.
Yes.
Okay, and she finally
agreed
to let you out of the lease.
Yes. We mutually signed it. She was in no duress when...
I'll make up my mind whether she was in duress.
Okay.
Okay. So you signed off on the lease?
I signed it due to the fact she was leaving the doors unlocked at the apartment when I came there at 10 o'clock at night by myself.
Well, where was he?
Well, I called him when I got out of school, and if she was not there, he would come over around 10:30 at night.
Is he living with you now?
No.
Who is?
Myself.
You mean he stopped staying over 6 nights a week?
Sometimes, yes. But it's
Ms. Benson, for the month that you were living together with her, and he's irritating her that he was there 6 nights a week. He was there. Then she moves out, you're living by yourself, and according to you, he's not over 6 nights a week. You think that I believe that? That's stupid. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Miss Benson, it doesn't make sense at all. The fact that he may not be giving any money towards the rent isn't my concern. But if you are still together, if he's still your boyfriend, what changed?
A lot has changed. I was pregnant, a lot of stuff happened, and I'm not as close to him as I was anymore.
Did you drag him here today to court?
I drag him here because he's my only witness.
Did you drag him here to court?
I didn't drag him, no.
When was the last time he stayed over at your apartment?
Before we left on the plane.
Get Leo. All right. Let's talk about this assault. Claims she assaulted you. When?
November 29th, 2002.
And what day did she move out of the apartment?
She moved out on the 21st. We signed the lease agreement on the 19th.
Okay. So what happened on November 29th?
I was designated driver for my boyfriend and my brother. We were at the underground bar, and I walked into the restroom, and she was in there with one of her friends. I bumped into her. She started calling me a name, and we got into a little...
When you say you bumped into her, you mean you met her, or you actually bumped into her?
I bumped into her. The way you walk around the corner in the bar, it's like a blind spot. She was standing right there in front of the mirror, and I just walked. I brushed up against her, and it turned into a pushing match, basically. And then I pushed her into the hallway so like a bouncer or somebody could break it up because I was in there by myself.
So you pushed her?
Into the hallway so we could get out of there.
So you pushed her?
Yes.
And what happened next?
She splashed her bottle of Smirnoff Ice in my face. The bouncer came between us, facing me. She winged a bottle at my head. We got kicked out of there. And then another incident happened at the other bar.
Just a second. What did you say, winged a bottle at my head?
She threw a bottle at my head.
Okay, were you injured?
No, it missed me.
Oh, so it missed you. So how did she assault you? Where did she assault you?
Well, she tried to kick me, and then the assault came at the next place.
That initial confrontation at the bar, you're not suing for?
Not that
You're suing
one.
for the next one?
Yeah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I don't want to have to make you look foolish. I will. Okay. And he knows there is nobody better at making somebody who's lying look foolish.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Amanda Benson says ex-roommate Amy Lamb owes for breaking their apartment lease. Amy says Amanda was allowing her boyfriend to stay for free.
All right, so tell me what happened at the next one.
I was leaving the next bar, me and my brother and my boyfriend, and we were walking out of there, and she was at the front door. When I tried to walk past her, she grabbed my shirt. She scratched my chest. The pictures didn't show up. Otherwise, I had pictures of a big old scratch on me. And she spit on me, spit in my face, and all I know is somebody she was with tried to throw a punch at me.
Okay, and that's what you're suing for?
Well, yeah, it caused a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff happened.
Okay. Anybody arrested?
No.
Police called?
No.
Did you seek... Shh.
I'm sorry.
Did you seek medical treatment anywhere?
Not for that.
Well, that's all I'm interested in. Okay, now, Ms. Lamb, you say that she assaulted you.
Yes, ma'am.
So why don't you tell me your version of the events of the 29th?
She came into the restroom at the first establishment, purposely ran into me, and she turned around and almost fell over. I believe she was intoxicated.
I was drunk, or I was pregnant.
Don't speak, Miss Benson. You have to be quiet. You had your turn. Go ahead.
I tried to leave the restroom, and she pushed me from behind. My friend here witnessed everything, and the bouncer came out when we exited the restroom. There were drinks tossed, and she got kicked out and is not able to return to that establishment. And we walked over to the next place.
Well, why did you leave if she got kicked out? Well, you all got kicked out.
No, I didn't get kicked out. We just stayed, and then we went to another club. I was showing the doorman my ID, and she punches me in the face. I have a police report that has...
Can I see it, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Benson, do you remember punching her?
No, I did not punch her. If I did, I tried to defend myself because somebody was throwing punches at me or I was being scratched or grabbed. It was in the middle of a bunch of people.
I was walking in the club. I wasn't even in there yet.
I was walking out of the club.
You have any witnesses? Step up. Tell me your name.
Chelsea Sales.
Miss Sales, were you at both clubs that evening with the defendant?
Yes, I was.
When you got to the second club, I want you to tell me what, if anything, you observed.
I was the first one that walked in, and I saw the plaintiff as I walked in, so I turned around to look at Amy to make sure she was okay, and next thing I know, she's throwing punches. The plaintiff was throwing punches. She hit Amy, and she hit our friend Stephanie, and Amy was bleeding.
She did?
Yes.
Did you see her connect with a punch?
Yes, I did. And then the bouncers came, and I was pushed up against the wall.
Okay. Was your boyfriend with you that night, Miss Benson?
Yes, he was.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Anthony Sandell.
Mr. Sandell, what kind of work do you do?
I work for a rental company.
Where do you live?
I live with my parents.
Sure you do. What's a big strapping guy like you still living at home?
I don't have anybody to move out with.
Sure you do. Sure you do. Plaintiff says you were living with her 6 nights a week for a month.
Actually, I was not living there since nothing of mine was there.
Is that what you consider not living there because you had no clothes there?
I stayed there probably about 6 nights out of the week when Amy was not there.
Is what you're telling me now, Mr. Sandell, under oath, that once she moved out, you stopped staying over there?
No, I didn't stop staying there completely.
You stopped staying over there 6 nights a week? Is that what you're telling me, sir?
I stayed there quite a bit, and...
Mr. Sandell?
Yes.
I don't want to have to make you look foolish. I will. I will.
Okay.
And he knows there is nobody better at making somebody who's lying look foolish. I can do it. I can humiliate you. You don't want me to do that, do you?
Not really.
Good.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today...
You took his head and you pushed it down, causing his tooth to break.
Yes.
Is the scenario that your son gave to you the same one that he just gave to me, or was it slightly different?
Slightly different.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Amanda Benson says ex-roommate Amy Lamb owes for breaking their apartment lease. Amy says Amanda was allowing her boyfriend to stay for free.
You were at the club on the 29th with your girlfriend, is that right?
That is correct.
Was she pregnant at the time?
Actually, yes, she was.
Was she drinking at the time?
No, she was not.
Are you telling me that she had nothing to drink?
I think
she just told me that the drinks were flying.
That was
Mr.
from her.
Sandell. No, she said the drinks were flying. Are you telling me she had nothing to drink? Is that what you're telling me?
That is what I'm telling you.
Did you get thrown out of the first club too, or just the plaintiff?
I got kicked out of there too, yes.
Mm-hmm. So it must have been pretty bad for you to get kicked out.
Not really.
Not really?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we both know the owner of the club, both me and her. We know the owner.
You both know the owner?
Yes.
I know the owner.
Shh. What difference does it make? Both know the owner.
That's why she got to stay.
Well, you both know the owner, according to
Some
the plaintiff.
of us know the owner better than the other.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Listen, police report says that she had a bloody mouth and that she had a knot on her head. I have a witness who says that you threw the first punch. And I also have an independent report saying that there were injuries. You had no injuries, none whatsoever. Your lawsuit's dismissed. Your lawsuit with regard to any rent that she owes you is dismissed because you signed off on the lease that she could leave because you breached an agreement that you had with her that while each of you had a boyfriend, they weren't going to be living there. I find that you and Mr. Sandell were living together despite the fact that he didn't keep a change of underwear at your house and he was smelly because he didn't shower there regularly. He still lived there.
He's only there after 10:30 at night.
Speak not. Now it's my turn. I listened to you, I listened to her, now I'm ruling. And if you think that I believe that after she left, you didn't have him stay there regularly, when the reason you told me you had him stay there regularly because you were afraid to live alone because she wasn't staying home, I mean, you have to get your story and your ducks in the water because then it makes a cogent tale. So I believe he stays there. I believe he stays there all the time. So you get nothing. Zero. As far as the assault is concerned, I don't find that she assaulted you in any way. You had no injuries. According to you, there was a shoving match, but you started the shoving, pushing her out of the hallway. In any event, that was in the first club. In the second club, it is clear to me that you hit her. She was injured. For that, she gets $500. I'm awarding her that on her counterclaim. I am also awarding you your deposit return of $125 because I find that because she breached the agreement by having him living there, you were forced to move. That's $625. Judgment for the defendant on the counterclaim. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think it's ridiculous.
I'm just glad that I got a chance to tell the truth.
She's been jealous of me forever.
I tried to talk to her as an adult.
I'm not letting her come back to try to be my friend again. She's tried numerous times, and it's not going to happen.
Everything came out as I expected because I had nothing to hide.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Craiglow versus Donahue. Step forward, please.
Water equipment operator John Craiglow and his son, 12-year-old Josh, are suing Josh's schoolmate, 13-year-old Chris Donahue, and his stepmother, juvenile detention officer Tammy Donahue. Josh claims Chris pushed his face into a drinking fountain and broke his tooth.
Parents may be seated. Did this incident happen at a school playground or a park?
It was in the hallway while I was getting a drink.
Hallway where? In school?
Yes.
All right, Chris. He's getting a drink in school.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason that I assume you're going to tell me, you took his head and you pushed it down, causing his mouth to hit the spigot, causing his tooth to break. Correct?
Yes.
Why did you do that?
We were messing around in the hall.
What do you mean you were messing around in the hall? What does that mean?
We were messing around in the hall. And
I don't know what messing around means. Messing around could be making a mess. Messing around could be fooling around. And if it's fooling around, I want you to tell me exactly what that means.
We're fooling around in the halls.
Tell me how you were fooling around.
We're bumping each other and...
How are you bumping each other? With your hands?
Yeah, we're just pushing each other around a little, and then we went to go get a drink, and...
Then you both went to get a drink?
Yes.
Who got a drink first?
Me.
Did you get your drink?
Yes.
And then you stepped aside?
Yes.
And then he stepped up to the fountain?
Yes.
And is that when you pushed his head down?
He was getting a drink first, and then I hit his head.
I want you to listen carefully as to what you just told me. First, you're messing around, pushing each other around, fooling around. Is that right?
Yes.
Then you were thirsty.
Yeah.
And he was thirsty.
Yes.
So you got a drink.
Yes.
When you were finished getting a drink, you moved aside.
Yes.
And the very next thing that happened was he went to get a drink?
Yes.
And while his head was down was when you hit his head?
Yes.
Is that the story that your son gave you? Or was it some other story that you wrote in your answer?
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Stand up. Now you can stand up. you'll answer my question. Is the scenario that your son gave to you when you asked him what happened the same one that he just gave to me, or was it slightly different?
Slightly different.
Well, I want you to rely on the fact that the one he just told me was the truth. Now, once we come to terms with the fact that the one he told me just now is the truth, you understand that he is responsible, and therefore you are responsible for paying his dental bills. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Good. Very, very foolish. Pushing, shoving, fooling around, messing around doesn't cause usually any injury. Do you understand that?
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats.
Mr. Beester, it is your claim that the defendant assaulted you by kicking you repeatedly around the head and body. The defendant says she was merely trying, she acknowledges that she did kick you, but she says she was trying to protect her boyfriend from you. So you tell me about this incident. When did it happen?
Happened on August 22nd on a Thursday night.
Where were you?
I was in my apartment with my wife and our 18-month-old little girl.
Okay.
What happened was we were trying to sleep, and we heard a lot of noise. We didn't know where, it was outside somewhere. So I had my wife, I said, just go up, get up out of bed and see what's going on.
That's your first problem. Why did you send your wife out to find out what the problem was?
Because my daughter, she likes to be with me, when we go to bed, and she only wants her dad, and she was holding on to me.
Your 18-month-old daughter was sleeping in the bed with the two of you? Before we get to the rest of this case, let me give you some advice. That's a big mistake. Big time. You go to sleep, baby goes to sleep, baby's crib, baby's bed, baby's whatever. 18-month-old baby doesn't sleep with you. It's very cute, it's very sweet. When they're 9 and 10, it's not so cute anymore. Do you understand?
You got that right.
Right? Right?
You got that right.
Right. And then they, in the middle of the night, you find you got an 8-year-old, you got a 7-year-old, you got a 5-year-old. They're all trying to clamor in your bed. So what used to be cute when you had one isn't so cute anymore when you got 3 of them, and you end up sleeping on the floor because, or your wife would end up sleeping on the floor under your scenario. Just a word of friendly advice. Okay, so next time this ever happens, you're not going to send your wife to the window so that you don't disturb your 18-month-old daughter. You're going to get up and go to the window, right?
That's correct.
I love it. Okay, so you send your wife out and she looks at the window. Step up, please. Okay, next time you give them a good boot in the back with your foot and you say, you get up and go see what's making all the noise. Anyway, you got up and you looked outside. What did you see?
Well, I saw a bunch of 19, 20-year-olds, I'm not sure how old they were, playing around outside on the swing set. It was a playground. They were sliding on the
How far away is the swing set from the playground from where you live?
About 10 feet away.
What floor are you on?
We're on the 2nd floor.
So there are a group of people fooling around outside?
Yes.
Talking loudly?
Mm-hmm. Screaming.
Screaming? What were they screaming?
I have no idea what they're screaming about.
Okay. And then what happened?
We all went to the window. This is in one of our other bedrooms. And they were just making a lot of noise, screaming. They're in a tree. I don't know what they're doing
in a tree.
They were in a tree, all of them. And I proceeded to say, be quiet or I'm calling the police, because it was very loud.
What did you say? Be quiet? Say shut up or I'm calling the police.
I did say be quiet, I'm calling the police, but that's what I did say. I did not swear. I did not say anything.
Okay.
Then I heard the gentleman over here yell back, go ahead and call the police, F you.
You mean this gentleman that looks like butter would melt in his mouth? Over here, right?
Mm-hmm.
This one? Okay, go ahead.
And then I told my wife, go ahead and call the police, and I did proceed to go outside.
Well, that was your second mistake, right?
Yeah, I agree. I should not have done that. And
right. That was your second mistake. What happened when you went outside?
The gentleman there, jumped out of the tree, and he ran up to me. And he pretty much said, what are you doing out here? Oh, just because you're bigger? Go ahead and hit me. I will sue you. And then she got involved, the defendant, and she started swearing and cussing at me.
Do you have a police report?
I sure do.
I'd like to see the police report, please. Okay, swearing, cussing. What happened next?
And then the defendant here proceeded to put her hand on my chest, swore at me, and said, F you, get back in your apartment. And I swiped her hand. She put it right here. I swiped her hand away, and I said, don't you ever touch me again. He got upset, and
because you had swiped her hand away, whatever.
Yes. But she had her hand. She put her hand on me. And
I understand that.
Okay. She then proceeded to scream. She got right in my face, about this far apart, and she was yelling and screaming at me again.
How many
swearing.
people were out there at that time? You?
Well, what happened is
The
4
two
people.
of them.
The 2 of them. The other 2 took off. Nobody else was out there. When I first came out there, the other 2 took off. So, and then what happened is then she put her hand in front of my face, and I did swipe her hand away, and that's when he came to me, and he pushed me. And then from there, Your Honor, I defended myself.
So what'd you do?
We started to like grapple, and then he pretty much said, "Oh, you're a big guy and you can't put me down." So I knew the police.
You got him down. You got him down on the ground.
Yes. Then I put him on the ground. He ripped my shirt. Then I ripped his shirt. And when I had him on the ground, I did not have him in a chokehold. I didn't throw any punches. No punches were thrown. She proceeded to go ahead and start kicking me in the head.
Okay. Tell me what injuries you suffered when she kicked you in the head.
At the immediate time, I did not know what injuries I suffered, but I know after the second kick that I had blood coming out of my nose, and it was splattering even after the last couple of times. And I do have pictures here.
Can I see it, please?
Yes. And this is the viewpoint from our apartment. I wiped off some of the blood, too, Your Honor, so it's not all there.
You have any other reports from the police, statements?
Do
you?
I don't.
I'd like to see them, please.
Well, I do got our own statements from everybody that had statements involved. My wife
I have
and them.
that.
I'd like to see
I
all
also
the
have the
statements.
police report that the police wrote out.
I'd like to see it. Okay. All right, Miss Barber, you tell me your version of the events. You're outside and hanging around in a tree.
Right. We did go outside.
I have this.
Oh.
I have this. I don't need this. I'm talking about other statements.
Oh, okay. That is all I have. We were outside and we were laughing and having a good time.
It's too late.
Right. And
it's too late.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Were you smoking regular cigarette or you were smoking some funny cigarette?
No, we were smoking regular cigarettes.
But it was after you smoked the cigarette that you ended up in the tree, is that right?
Yes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Brian Beester says he was injured when neighbor Courtney Barber kicked him in the head. Courtney says she was defending her boyfriend.
Go ahead.
We went up in the tree and we heard Mr. Beester yell out of his house, "Shut the f*** up." He didn't politely say anything about us being quiet. And we all looked at each other and we realized, okay, we're too loud, we need to go inside. And at that point, Mike had yelled back to him whatever he had said about call the cops. If he said F whatever, I don't remember that. And then as we were coming out of the tree, which was immediately after that, he had came out and was standing underneath the tree at that point. So running up to him.
He has to get dressed, put on his shoes because he was in bed. I don't know what the weather's like, whether he sleeps in the buff or he sleeps in pajamas. Either walk downstairs, take the elevator downstairs and come out.
There were 4 of us in the tree.
You shouldn't have been in a tree.
Absolutely.
Right?
I understand that, yes.
And what were you doing kicking him in the head?
Well, what had happened was that he was at the base of the tree when all of us had been down. Mike did not run at him or anything. And at that point, he told us, I'm in the military, you guys are being too loud, and there's no reason for you to be outside. And there was cursing back and forth. There was yelling back and forth.
Well, just a second. But that's what he said to you. I'm in the military?
Yes.
There's no reason for you, so why didn't somebody say to him, I'm sorry, we shouldn't have been making so much noise, we're leaving?
I did absolutely say, I am sorry, we're going inside.
You said that?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, I did.
Then you tell me how the pushing and shoving match started between the two of them.
Because he had called Mike a loser. He was in the military, he was better than us, basically, was absolutely yelling at us, and we were shocked. We didn't want any fight to happen. We were not about to yell with this man.
I don't understand how he started, how he was getting kicked in the head. You want to get to that point?
Yes.
So far, I'm just hearing words.
Okay. When he said that I had put my hand on his chest and that he smacked it down, that was true. I had put my hand on it, in his face, not on his chest.
For what?
Because he was towering over me and he was screaming over me.
Why didn't you just leave? Why didn't you just leave?
We were walking away.
How could you just walk away?
He called me a and that's when Mike got angry at the fact that he called me a
So, what happened?
So Mike said there's no reason to call anybody a
Is that what he
Don't
said
call
just
my
like
girlfriend
that? Just like that?
Yes.
Just like that,
Yes.
nice and calm.
Don't call my girlfriend, he said.
Mm-hmm. Keep going.
And then they started wrestling after cursing. They grabbed onto each other, and they were throwing each other around. And nothing was even being yelled at that point by Mike saying, hit me or any of that. Nothing
So they're
was said
tussling
like that.
around. I still don't understand how he got all these injuries.
He got Mike on the ground and was on top of him, and he says in his police report that he had him in a wrestling move.
Okay, so he got him on the
in
ground.
some kind of headlock. I could only see the bottom half of Mike, and the rest of him was underneath Brian.
Yeah.
And at that point, I got scared. He was on top of him, and I didn't know if Mike couldn't breathe or what was going on.
Why don't you ask him, Mike, can you breathe?
I was screaming at him, get off of him, leave him alone,
Why don't you
stop.
ask him, Mike, can you breathe? Instead of get off him, well, how about Mike, can you breathe? I still don't understand how he got all these injuries.
I was barefoot when I kicked him.
What were you doing barefoot?
Because it was summer. It was nice out. I just walked out of my apartment to have a cigarette.
So you climbed up the tree barefooted?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I did.
How did he get all these marks on him?
I kicked him once in the face, and he screamed out. And the second time I kicked him, he let Mike go.
Uh-huh. Where had you been prior? Stand up, you. Where had you been prior to going out and tree hopping that evening?
Inside my apartment.
What about the 3 other people who were with you? Were they in your apartment earlier that evening?
Yes.
What were they doing in your apartment earlier that evening?
Hanging out with us.
Do you 2 live together?
Yes, all 3 of us do.
This young lady too?
Yes.
Okay, what do you do for a living?
I'm a desk clerk at a hotel.
And you?
Rough carpenter.
And you?
Customer service rep.
Did everybody just want to go out for a cigarette or just you?
Everybody did.
Did you have the cigarette when you went outside?
Yes.
When did you get up into the tree?
After we were finished, we ended up going and playing around, running around.
Were you smoking regular cigarette or you smoking some funny cigarette?
No, we were smoking regular cigarettes.
Really? But it was after you smoked the cigarette that you ended up in the tree, is that right?
Yes.
You have medical bills?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
I'd like to see them, please.
I also got a letter from my dentist stating, what had happened.
Any other bills that you have?
No, that's the only one I have, Your Honor.
Mr. Beaster, I'm going to make the following observation to you, sir. You're a grown man with a wife and a child, and you should have known better than to go outside once your wife called the police.
Yes.
You were hot because they disturbed your family, and the reaction when you said whatever you said to them irritated you. Otherwise, you would not have gone outside. That was a mistake. You should have acted in a more mature fashion. That doesn't in any way suggest that you are without fault. I'm not sure whether I believe. I was a smoker for a long time, and if I went outside to have a cigarette, I didn't end up in a tree.
Right.
Which suggests to me that you must have been feeling pretty good after that cigarette, because you're 3 people with responsible jobs. 3 people with responsible jobs usually don't have the reaction of hopping up into a tree after they have a smoke. I didn't see any indication here in the police report that the police officer smelled alcohol on your breath, so I might assume it was something else. In any event, you had absolutely no basis to cause the injuries to him that you did. Your actions precipitated the evening's events. If it wasn't for you, the whole thing wouldn't have started, all of you. So you're going to pay for his dental work. His dental work so far was $972. Those are the only bills I have. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You may step out.
He was there waiting for us to fight as soon as he got out of the tree, and that was self-defense.
No, that's a lie. That is a straight-out lie. He's the one that came out of the tree, ran up to me and said, go ahead, hit me. I'll sue you. You're bigger than me. I don't care.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Sullivan versus Bradshaw. Step forward, please.
25-year-old cook Andrea Sullivan and her husband Micah are suing former friend 25-year-old cook Damon Bradshaw for injuring Andrea's back when he body slammed her onto a couch. Damon says he was imitating Andy Kaufman.
Mrs. Sullivan, the defendant was a former friend of yours and a roommate.
That's right.
Both you and your husband's. Is your husband?
Yes.
According to your complaint, one evening, 2 of you were sitting around watching television, and Mr. Bradshaw, sort of mimicking something that you were watching on television, some wrestling that you were watching on television, he picked you up and he threw you on the sofa, because he was watching some wrestling. Is that right, Mr. Bradshaw?
Pretty much. It was Andy Kaufman.
What does he do? Does he sing?
He was a comedian who wrestled women.
What?
Taxi. Laka. On Taxi, the show Taxi.
He be that.
Does he also, and he wrestles?
Well, he started wrestling women for a while because he thought it'd be funny.
See, that's what you were watching on television.
Yeah.
And
So, huh?
what day of the week was this?
I don't know. On a weekday or something, I don't remember.
Well, what kind of work do you do? What were you doing then?
I wasn't working at the time. So.
Were you studying something?
No, I was just a bum. Pretty much.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're a cook.
Yeah.
Did you go to school for that?
No, I didn't.
Would you give me the name of the restaurant, Bert, and I want to make sure to take it off our list.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Andrea Sullivan and her husband Micah are suing former friend Damon Bradshaw for injuring Andrea's back when he body slammed her onto a couch. Damon says he was imitating Andy Kaufman.
Anyway, you picked up Mrs. Sullivan and you threw her on the couch?
I didn't throw her.
Tell me what you did.
Well, we were getting wasted, and we were up all night long watching TV, and he had to go to work, and so we were watching Man on the Moon about Andy Kaufman, and I thought it looked pretty funny. I said I could kick any girl's butt, and...
Don't do that to the table.
Sorry.
It's irritating.
And so I grabbed her, and we were wrestling around, and I took her, and I, like, put her on the couch, and she landed on, I guess, a bar or something in the couch, and I hurt her back. Then we called him. He came over.
Oh. What kind of work do you do now?
Now I'm a cook.
You're a cook?
Yeah.
Did you go to school for that?
No, I didn't.
Would you give me the name of the restaurant, Bert, and I want to make sure to take it off our list. Could we have the name of the restaurant, please? Put that down, Bert.
It's really good.
It's off the list.
It's off the list.
Off the list.
All right, he threw you down on a couch. You hurt your back, is that right?
That's right. We weren't wrestling, though.
Mr. Bradshaw said that you were both drinking. Is that true?
Yes.
What do you do?
I am a cook also.
Did you go to school to be a cook?
No.
What's the name of the restaurant? And what do you do?
I'm a student.
Did you see a doctor?
Yes, I went to a chiropractor.
Can I see, please, the bills from the chiropractor? When did you first start to have pain in your back?
As soon as he dropped me onto the couch, that he slammed me down onto the couch.
Was there a bar there? He says
yeah, there
a
was
bar
like
there.
a wood frame bar that I landed on, and
They weren't really wrestling, though, Your Honor. He always says it like that they were wrestling and having a good time, but he just
He wasn't
picked her up
wrestling.
and
He was being an idiot.
Yeah, he just grabs her and
No,
threw her
excuse me,
down.
he wasn't being an idiot.
Yes,
He was an
he did
idiot
slam me
practicing
It was
his
just like a
craft.
roughhouse.
Yeah.
I don't go around beating women up.
You didn't do it, sir. You didn't hurt her on purpose.
No.
I want to explain something to you. I don't believe that you...
Yeah, this is case number 356 on the calendar in the matter of Koch versus Ringenberg, Buban, Fagan. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Which one of you gentlemen is Brad? All right. So what I want you to do is stand right over there. That's it. Now, Miss Koch, according to what I read, you had a friend, Kathy. Is Kathy here? You are his mother. Correct. Brad's mother. Kathy was visiting you at your house, and she at some point wanted to go home and check on her kids. So you said she could borrow your car to do that, as long as she brought it right back. Correct? Correct. Kathy goes home, and she decides to let her son drive the car back to your house. So far, that's what you did. You let your son drive the car back to her house.
To pick up my car.
I don't care what it was.
Not to check on my kids. To get my car so I could have it back at her house.
Whatever. You let your son drive the car back to her house. Is that right?
To follow me, to have my car.
Whatever. He could have followed your car. He could have been driving
He did.
your car.
He did.
So who was driving her car?
He did. I was in my car. He drove her car, followed me back to her
Did you
house.
understand what I said? Try to pay attention. I said you could have let him be the driver of your car, and you drove her car back. But you didn't do that. You let him drive her car. Is that right?
Correct.
Now, at some point, he decides to stop off and pick up a couple of friends. Is that right, Brad?
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
And there goes the trouble, because by the time your car was returned to you much later on, it was totally undrivable, had blown a transmission, and some other stuff happened to the car. There's where we are. And I want you gentlemen now to be very, very brief, because I've read all of your answers. Not to worry, Ms. Koch, we're going to get to you. Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe it's necessary, and maybe it won't be necessary.
Okay.
Because, you know, my credo is keep it simple, stupid. That's what my father always said to me, so I'm going to try to keep this as simple for myself as possible. In 30 seconds or less, you tell me how her car ended up in the junk pile.
I went and picked them up, and we went back to her house.
Went back to whose house?
Connie's house.
All right, so you went back to her house, but you had stopped off to pick up these two gentlemen.
Yes, Your Honor.
Where was your mother?
She was at home.
Your mother was home. That's interesting. I thought she said she was in her car. All right, but we'll let that pass for a moment. So you stop off to pick up the two guys. And what happens after you pick up the two guys?
We went to Connie's house, and I took the keys inside.
Look at me.
I took the keys inside, and I put it on the table right in front of her.
And then what were you going to do?
And I went back outside, and we were stuck there.
What do you mean we were stuck there? What did that mean, you were stuck there?
We didn't have a ride nowhere.
Well, didn't you realize that once you drove the car back to Connie's house, you weren't going to have a ride anywhere unless, of course, your mother, who says she was following you.
I thought my mother was there, but she went home.
But she went home. She was just driving around. Maybe she had to mail a letter or something. Yeah. Go ahead. So now you're standing outside and you have no ride home. What's next?
Look
at me.
Matt went inside.
Matt, raise your hand. Matt went inside.
And he said he was going to ask for the keys.
Who did you ask for the keys?
Connie, but she was sleeping, so I just...
Oh, now, so you asked her, but she was sleeping. Yeah. Now, I want you to explain to me how you... Please don't laugh at him. Bird's going to laugh at him. So you were going to ask Connie for the keys, and you asked her for the keys, but she was sleeping.
Yes.
So what did you do? Did you do telepathy?
I just grabbed them and went outside.
So you had no permission to have the car. Is that right? Now, when you got outside, what did you say to your two friends?
Let's go to Polk City and...
Excuse me?
I asked Brad to go drop me and Luke off in Polk City and go back out there, but...
But what?
We ended up staying at my house for a while. And
Who?
Us three.
How long?
An hour, maybe.
And then what happened?
Me and Luke drove around for a little bit, got some gas, and the car stalled.
Okay, where'd you leave him?
My house with a few other friends.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, let's understand this. You had no permission to have the car, is that right? Is that right?
Yes.
And you had no permission to be in the car, is that right? After you had dropped it off?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what about you?
Nope.
No what?
No, I didn't have permission to be in the car.
Who was driving?
Matt.
Did you ever drive the car?
No, Your Honor.
Now, did Matt tell you that he didn't have permission to have the car?
He told me we did have permission.
He did?
Yes.
What did he say to you?
Well, me and Brad were sitting outside of Connie's house, and he went inside and got the keys and comes out and says that, you know, let's go. And he didn't say that he had permission, but, you know, he said, let's go. And
Oh, so he didn't say he had permission. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. You knew. Now, tell me about your car. What happened to it? They just say it stopped.
It was 70 miles away when the transmission blew from my home.
70 miles?
And then I came back home and I went filed a police report. And they...
Just tell me what the damage was to the car. That's my question.
Well, my damages are $3,490. There's a towing charge, there's attorney fees, and unused insurance, but...
I just want to see what the damage was to the car.
The matter is all I need.
How old are you?
16.
You're 16. Oh, how old are you?
17.
7. And you?
16.
16. Oh, this makes my life so much easier.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You listen to me.
Her keys were put on that table.
No, listen
Somebody
to me.
came in that house.
Oh, yeah.
Those keys came back
Madam,
on
you
that
are
counter.
a liar.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Connie Koch says teenagers Brad Buban, Matt Regensburg, and Luke Fagan drove her car without permission. Connie says the boys damaged the transmission, then abandoned it 70 miles away.
You know how I like to keep things simple? I want you to move over there. I'd like you to step up here. Your name is Kathy what?
Buban.
Step up here. Let her stand next to her prize. Son says that you didn't follow him to her house so that you could give him a ride back. And I believe him, because that's what they say. Why didn't you do that?
I just picked up my car so I could leave Connie's when I felt when I was wanting to go home.
Well, just 1 second, madam. She didn't give your son permission to drive her car.
She gave both of us.
No, she did not. No, she did not.
Back.
Excuse me?
Someone's got to drive my car, which is me.
No, not you, which is him. Don't you get it? That's what I said to you before. If somebody's going to drive a car that doesn't belong to them, it's going to be you, not him. So he drives your car, and you drive her car.
That's probably how it should have been done.
Right. Because but for that, this whole thing wouldn't have happened. Right? Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, everybody knows 16-year-old boys and cars don't mix. They're fools. And when they have friends, they're bigger fools. Now, you should have anticipated that. You didn't. Therefore, I am not holding these two boys' parents responsible. I'm holding you responsible for the whole thing. Because I'm holding him responsible for the whole thing. You want to go after them? Sue him. If you came before me, you'd be totally unsuccessful. But for your actions, you're the adult. He never would have had his hands on the keys to her car. You got it? Now, if the boys had gone into her house and you had nothing to do with that, and each one of the boys told me the same story, he got the keys, he drove the car with them, he was also a passenger who knew what was going on, and you had nothing to do with it, all three of you would be equally responsible. But in this case, you were the one who controlled the keys to that car. If you had done the right thing and said, follow me back, I'm taking Connie's car, you drive my car, when we get to Connie's house, going inside, I'll be right out. You put Connie's keys someplace where Connie can get her keys if she's sleeping, you come outside, you say, now drive me home.
That's what happened.
No, it's not what happened. You were not driving Connie's car.
He put him on the table.
You listen to me. You were not driving Connie's car back to her house. He was. He should have been driving your car, not Connie's car. You want to give a 16-year-old permission to drive a car and to pick up friends? Let it be your car, not your friend's car. She was doing you a service. Judgment for the plaintiff against this defendant only in the amount of $3,000. And if you think you can prove a case against the parents of these two boys, you go ahead and try. You will be unsuccessful here because you had the ability, you're the adult, you had the ability to ensure that her car got home safely, and you chose not to do that. These parents didn't. They had no idea what was going on. Only you did.
Her keys were left on her counter.
Only you did. You had the ability to see to it that her car was returned to her house safely.
It was returned in her driveway.
No, it wasn't.
And her keys were put on that table.
No, listen to me.
Somebody came in that house.
Oh, yeah,
and took those keys off that table.
Put that down. You can tell me anything that you like, and I'm telling you, you had the responsibility to see to it that yours.
And it came back. Those keys came back on that counter.
Madam, you are a liar. Your son says you are a liar. I believe you're a liar. Your son just told me you're a liar. He just told me that you never followed him back to her house to drive him home because they were there stranded. And you said, I followed him back there, which is a lot of baloney. So you're a liar, you're responsible. Judgment for the plaintiff against this defendant only, $3,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm not a liar.
All I know is my police report says that Kathy admitted to knowing that they were taking the vehicle.
It put a strain on Connie because she was without a car.
I'm still without a vehicle.
I carted her around. I tried to be very helpful.
I've gotten nowhere. They were said, please don't press charges. We'll get it fixed. We'll get it fixed.
I was a good neighbor. She's been a good neighbor. It's what neighbors are supposed to do.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Frank versus Willoughby. Step forward, please.
Homemaker Diane Frank is suing her sister, real estate agent Bonnie Willoughby, for car payments, attorney fees, and for the cost to have a car shipped from Hawaii to California.
Ms. Frank, the defendant is your sister, is that right?
Yes.
And you co-signed a loan for a car for her?
Yes.
And the agreement was that she was to make the payments on the car?
Yes.
Is that right so far?
Yes.
And then there came a time when your sister left wherever you were. Where had you been living?
Riverside.
In California?
Yes.
And she went to Hawaii?
Yes.
You didn't know where she went, but she went to Hawaii with the car?
Yes.
And it is your claim that she was not making payments on this car?
Right.
And you want her to pay for payments that you had to catch up on, as well as the cost of bringing the car back from Hawaii to California, which was in excess of $5,000, which is the maximum here. Your sister says that you had no reason to come and take the car back because she was, in fact, making payments. correct?
Yes.
That's what you say. So let me tell you what the rules are. If you were making all the payments, then I'm going to dismiss your sister's case, because if you were making all the payments, that was your agreement, and she had no right to go and pick up the car, and if she went and picked up the car, then all the expense she will bear herself. So then the burden falls upon you to show me proof that you made all the car payments from 11/11/99 until what date did you pick up the car?
I picked up the car on February 23rd, I believe.
Of this year?
Yes.
Miss Willoughby, let me see it. Let me see the proof that you made all the payments. Show me. Go ahead.
Your Honor.
That's me.
My records are not available to me. I am going through a separation, and I don't have access to the records because my husband has all of them in a storage where I do not have access to.
Miss Willoughby, banks keep records. So if you wrote a check each month for this car, all you have to do is call the bank and say, I don't have my records. I need copies of the last 12 months. So the truth of the matter is that you weren't making all these payments. Isn't that right? Miss Willoughby, did you make all the payments?
I made all of the payments up until I started to fall slightly behind.
So then the answer is you didn't make all the payments. You have letters to show me from the bank indicating that the payments were delinquent?
Yes.
Can I see them, please?
These are the statements that start coming I don't have them all, but here's
Let me take a look
plenty
at some
of them that shows that they were starting to come late. I started receiving phone calls.
Just a second. Just a second. Well, here's one, 12/11/01. Were you in Hawaii at that time?
No, I was not.
Well, at that time, the past due amount was $1,446.86. When did you go to Hawaii?
Approximately 2001 would have been May. Your Honor, I was not able to find the car for 8 months. I begged on email, please tell me where the car is. I couldn't get insurance on the car because I didn't have possession of the car. She didn't have insurance on it, so they tacked on insurance on those payments too. So I got that extra lovely bill.
When did you finally pick up the car? 2/23/02?
Yes.
And you've been making the payments on the car ever since?
Yes.
How much did you ultimately pay for the car, on the car, when you picked it up in February? How much did you have to pay to catch up with what was
November,
owed?
I made a payment of $1,548.41. That way they said that they were dropping all the suits against me.
Okay, but you didn't have the car at that time?
No.
How much did it cost you to bring the car back?
It cost me $871 to ship it, and another $250 was mandatory. They made me get marine insurance. The WOFS would not release it without getting the marine insurance. That wasn't required when I shipped it to Hawaii.
I don't care.
WFS had no requirement.
You had money to ship it to Hawaii. Did you make any other payments on the car when it wasn't in your possession?
Yes, I did.
How much?
I made the December, the January, and the February.
Let me see.
Okay, December. Oops.
Ms.
These
Willoughby,
ones. And I also
why
made
do you
some.
think this isn't amusing? Do you think this is amusing?
No, I don't think it's amusing. I think it's just sad when a sister can't solve something between her sister in private. We both have the same. Have the same history of problems.
How much did you pay her? $50 a month towards this back money? How much did you give her since she's been laying out all this money? $25 a month?
Since she has had possession of the car?
No, before. In order to keep her credit reasonable when you weren't making the payments.
She damaged my credit. Oh, sorry.
How much did you give her? And call her up and say, listen, I can't give it to you all at one time, but I'm going to send you $100 a month, $50 a month. I will catch up as soon as I can.
I've had the expense of $3,197 of rental car bills because she's had my car this entire while.
Before, you didn't hear my question. Miss Willoughby, before she took back the car and you weren't making payments, did you call her and say to her, I'm sorry you had to make these payments for me, but I'm going to send you $100 a month, $200 a month, $50 a month, just to show you that I know it's my responsibility?
I know that it's my responsibility.
No, I asked you whether you called her and said that to her.
My mother did.
Judgment for the plaintiff and the amount requested. Your costs are far more than that, but your sister's not going to get it. Do you understand? She doesn't get it. She doesn't get it that it's her responsibility, not her mother's responsibility, nobody else's responsibility. She took off with the car. She didn't pay for the car. She's in another jurisdiction. She says, I have other bills to pay. But the onus of it fell on you because you did the wrong thing. You co-signed or you signed as a primary on a car for somebody else. You never do that.
I didn't sign as a primary. She worked for the place, and they switched my name.
You signed. Listen, you went there. You recognized the fact that they switched you as a co-signer.
No, I didn't know it at the time.
Well, then you have
It's
to
my mistake.
That's your mistake. Yes. Then you have to read it more carefully. But she's got the car, and you got the lousy credit. I mean, it's ridiculous. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. With the on the calendar, the matter of Falk versus Craig. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Ms. Falk, it is your claim that the defendant's daughter somehow got behind the wheel of a car that belonged to you while it was in a garage, drove it through the garage door, damaging the car. You want the defendant to be responsible for repairing the car, which is about $600. The defendant says that his daughter is not responsible and did not drive the car and was not responsible for the damage. You weren't there.
No, ma'am.
Your daughter was there.
That's correct.
So why don't you step up? Tell me your first name.
Kaylee.
All right, Ms. Falk, where was your car?
My car was parked in my sister's private garage in Houston, Texas.
What was it doing there?
It was awaiting transport. My sister and niece moved down to El Paso, Texas, and we left the car there for my movers to pick it up at a later date. They were, at that time, taking my sister's car back.
It's actually within a garage?
Yes, ma'am. And I have pictures of that.
Can I see it?
Yes. That's the new garage he replaced.
The new door?
Yes, ma'am.
Who replaced the door?
Mr. Craig.
Good for you. How much did that cost you?
$420.
All right, Kaylee. You want to tell me how you got possession of this car?
My friend and I, Tammy, were going to her house.
Going to whose house?
Tammy's. And we saw these two guys, and they were emptying out the garage. And we went to go see, and they told us about the car being in there and how it had the keys in the ignition, and they didn't know what to do with the car. And
who were the two guys?
One said that he was his gardener, and the other said that he didn't say who he was.
Go ahead.
And they told us about everything, and so Tammy wanted to go see the car, and so we went in there, and as we were leaving, the guys gave us 2 scooters because they said that they were going to just take the stuff. They said something like, give it away or something like that. And then we left, and then Tammy wanted to go back, and so we went back, and she said that she wanted to go inside the car, and so we went inside the car, and she was in the driver's seat, and I was just in the passenger seat, and she turned on the car, and...
How'd she get into the garage?
There's a door.
So you went in a door?
Mm-hmm.
So she turned on the car. Go ahead.
And she put it in reverse, and it jumped back and hit the garage.
Yeah?
That's all.
How old are you?
12.
So let's go back a little bit. You saw 2 men who were stealing property from this garage, is that right?
Yes.
And the 2 men who were stealing property from the garage told you that they were giving you 2 scooters, which you knew were stolen, is that right?
No.
You had to know they were stolen because you knew the 2 men were stealing property.
They said that Ms. Tipton had called them.
Yeah. So that you knew when you took the 2 scooters. Now, where did you bring the scooters, by the way? Did you bring them to your house?
I brought one to my house, and Tammy took one.
You live there with your father?
My mom.
What did you tell your mother about where you got the scooter?
That this guy was packing away the stuff, and he gave it to us. And she said, okay.
When you went back there, according to you, with your friend Tammy, you knew you had no permission to go into the garage, isn't that right? You have to answer me. Don't shake your head in court.
Yes, ma'am.
So you were committing a crime when you went in there, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you got into the car, you knew you had no permission to be in that car, isn't that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And according to you, it was Tammy who drove the car.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you went into the garage the first time with the men, you had the key to the car.
No, ma'am.
Did you ever have the key to the car?
Yes, ma'am. After Tammy had put it on my keychain.
When did Tammy put it on your keychain?
The second time that we were there.
Before or after she crashed the car? Before or after she crashed the car?
After.
Tell me about after. She crashed the car, and did you get frightened?
Yes.
What did you do?
I told her, Tammy, we better leave. We had no business to be here.
And you got out of the car?
Yes.
Tell me about how the key got on your key ring.
She put it on there.
You know what happens when you fib? Your nose gets longer. Doesn't make sense. Now, a lot of things make sense. Could possibly happen. You could have gone in there and it would have been just as you told me. That Tammy got behind the wheel of the car, Tammy drove the car, all of a sudden it crashes into the door, damages the door, but then you jump out of the car and you leave fast. You don't wait for Tammy to take the key out of the ignition, put it on your key ring. That doesn't make sense. Does that make sense to you, sir? No, of course not. Okay. Have you called Tammy, sir?
Yes, I have.
So, you sue Tammy. That's your job. If you feel as if your daughter is only partially responsible, you sue Tammy.
Your Honor, I feel like she's more responsible.
Well,
my defense is that there was no damage to the vehicle.
I've got pictures.
I requested pictures and never got any pictures.
You mean you crash a car into a garage door with sufficient force for you to replace the garage door, and you don't think there's any damage to the car?
I saw the car.
Your Honor, my niece is back in Houston again, and these two are in the same class at school, and she has admitted all this to my niece after I filed this lawsuit.
Really?
Yes.
Where's your niece?
Right here, Madeline.
You're Madeline?
Yes, ma'am.
You go to school together?
Yes.
Well, tell me about the conversation you had with this young lady.
Well, we usually talk at lunch because you're not allowed to talk in class. So she said they pulled off the top of the car, but they said there was no damage. But
they said there was no damage.
Kaylee said there was no damage to the car. So,
what else did she say?
She said they were in there they were in there twice over a period of 2 days.
Doing what?
Listening to the radio.
Would you show the defendant's father pictures of the car? Can I have your estimates, please?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you get the top off the car, Kaylee?
Tammy read the instructions.
So it was all Tammy. What were you doing when she was reading the instructions?
I was taking it off.
You were taking it off?
Yes.
Listen, sir, consider yourself very lucky. It's your daughter's fault. If you feel as if Tammy is partially responsible, I suggest that you sue Tammy and her mother. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $650. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
There's consequences when you do something wrong.
She was highly upset.
The father, I mean, that was a ridiculous story. How could he believe it?
She told me that she didn't do it, and finally the next day she told me that, yeah, we did it.
She made a mistake. She's sorry. It's over with.
I don't think I should have been in the garage.
Take it to Judge Judy.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Soto versus Millett, be about. Step forward, please.
Retired construction worker Frank Soto is suing his sister, business owner Susan Millett, and her business partner Harold Beabout for stealing his disability checks while he was in jail. Susan and Harold are countersuing for the value of a car.
Mr. Soto, Miss Millett is your sister, is that right?
Yes, miss.
And Mr. Beabout is her boyfriend.
I'm not exactly...
Partner, boyfriend?
Something of that.
Something like that. You have several complaints against them. First, you say that your sister cashed and spent, for her own use, some of your disability checks while you were incarcerated.
Yes.
Then it is your claim that when you got out of jail, you did some work for Mr. Beabout. And he promised to pay you for that work, and he never did.
Correct.
And the third thing is, you say that because they owed you all this money, they bought you a car.
Yes.
Instead of the money. And while you have the car, they refuse to give you the title to the car.
Yes.
Now, your sister says that you did, in fact, cash some of your disability checks because you asked her to pay some of your bills while you were in jail. Correct?
Yes.
Mr. Beabout does not address the work that you allegedly did for him, other than to say, Madam, you're playing with papers while I'm speaking, other than to say that they bought the car for you to use while you were doing work for them. And when you left, you took the car and they want their car back, correct?
That's correct.
Yes, correct.
So let's deal with some simple questions first. When were you incarcerated, sir, that you claimed that your sister cashed your checks?
On 3/29/02, I was arrested for violating my conditions of parole, and I was released from custody on 9/25/02, and between that period, Social Security gave me documentation that checks were cashed in that period that she cashed without my consent.
How many checks did you cash for him?
I believe 2 with written consent and also with his words and receipts.
Well, let me see the written consent. According to you, the defendant cashed 3 checks. Is that right, sir?
She cashed 5 of them.
I have additional documents here highlighted, what he requested for me to do with the money and also receipts of words.
Well, tell me what he requested that you do with the money.
He needed Sprint bills paid.
How much was the Sprint bill?
Oh, it was in excess of $400 and something.
Okay, so that's $400. What else?
To give my children $300, one of my children, she goes to Disneyland with her orchestra from her high school in Sacramento.
Well, what did he say there?
To give her $300.
Madam, you cashed $3,375 in checks.
No, I cashed 2 checks for $675 each.
Yeah.
And he further
Let's
states...
see where it says... You tell him that you're going to take some of his money.
Yes,
you tell him that.
do.
You need desperately to borrow, in this letter, $300.
Okay, and it states in this letter here, the $300 that he lent and said you don't have to pay it back. Harold's my current partner in our contracting business for paint and roofing. My partner prior to that was my boyfriend of 5 years.
I'm glad this was in your sad story,
well,
madam.
no,
You
he
took his money.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Do you want to go back to jail, sir?
No.
Give him back the car.
We
Listen
did
to
not
me.
even want the car back.
You don't want the car back? I'll tell him not to give you the car back. What do you want?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Frank Soto says his sister Susan Millen and her partner Harold Beabout stole his disability checks. The two say Frank stole their car.
Madam, listen to me. How much did you take?
Well, 2 checks at $675, but some of the check, one of the checks was to go to my mother and to my children for their Disneyland school trip. What it says right here, and as I'm writing from the...
Stop it. What happens if he wasn't in jail? What would you have done?
Well, no, he wasn't entitled to the checks.
What do you mean he wasn't entitled to the checks?
While you're in prison, you cannot receive SSI checks.
So let me ask you a question. What happens when they go after him for the check? Is he going to come after your daughter and say, give me back the Disneyland
Oh, no.
trip?
We have paid him for those checks. And his
show me.
check,
How much did you pay him back?
more than what we borrowed. We paid him about $1,600. But
Just a minute. How much did you pay him back?
Stopped.
How much did she pay you back?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Show me. Just show me. It's your business. You have checks.
Well, it was cash. We were paying him cash through, and in these letters, he says, give the children the money. When he
Are
came
you
out
following me? I'm not interested in your letters. Give your children the money. I passed that. Show me.
We paid him cash because he was receiving SSI, and it was unfortunately a little under the table work.
Then I can't help you, my dear. So I am finding that you paid him back nothing of this $1,350 that you acknowledge you took from his checks that you acknowledge he wasn't entitled to. Because you say if he was in jail, he's not entitled to disability. So you knew that. You were swift to know that. And you took that money anyway. So $1,350 because Social Security is going to come after him, especially after they see this. Now, quiet. Now you tell me what you paid him. Because you want to tell me that he was able to do hard labor for you.
Correct.
Right? So tell me what he did for you.
That would have to be Harold, Mr. Beabout.
Harold, what did he do for you?
He wasn't on my payroll, Your Honor. He was not. He got out of prison, no money in his pocket.
His sister spent his money. That's why he had no money in his pocket.
That's family problem. I'm telling you what my problem. I don't owe him any money because I paid him. He come up and worked around my garage after I moved for 3 days, and I give him $100 a day out of my pocket to pay for meals and motel.
Okay.
And then
just a minute. Stop. Did you work for him for 3 days? Don't lie. Did you work for him for 3 days?
I think more than 3 days.
Well, I don't care what you think.
Yeah,
you take drugs,
yes,
right?
Yes.
right? So your brain might be a little bit fried. You worked for him at least 3 days.
Yes.
Did he give you $100 a day?
No.
Yes, he did. Yeah, sure he did. He gave you something.
Yeah, he did.
Well, how much did he give you?
He gave me 50 one time and 100 the third day.
Well, that you remember?
Yes.
That you remember? Okay. Tell me about this car.
Well, I bought the car, Your Honor. He was incarcerated when I bought that car. So I bought that car because I have a big van and I didn't want the gas hog. I wanted something economy to ride around in. So he gets out, and he don't have no wheels. He has to go to the doctor. He's got to go to his parole officer and all that. I loaned him the wheels to drive around. And he was with me the day I took my pickup in to the garage, and he knew I had to have it in there on a Friday. So Friday, he takes the car, and that's the last I seen of him, Your Honor.
Now I'll hear you. Tell me about the car, sir.
The deal was my sister and both of them, the deal was for what the money they owed me, this was partial compensation by giving me that car because they know I needed a car. And she said this will be just partial payment and we'll pay the rest as soon as possible. And
you just made that up as you're going along.
No.
Yeah, you did. You sure you did?
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Okay. Listen to me. He wants to go back to jail. That's what he wants to do. He wants to go back to jail. He's going to go back to jail $1,350 richer because that's what you owe him for taking his money. You don't owe him anything. I believe that you did, in fact, pay him when he worked for you for the 3 days. And I don't believe that you bought him a car. So he's got to return the car. If he doesn't return the car, he's operating it without the permission of the owner. That's an unauthorized use of a motor vehicle for which he can go back to jail. Do you want to go back to jail, sir?
No.
Give him back the car.
He's going to need a tow truck for it because the transmission's gone on it.
Oh,
so he can
goodness.
have it.
We did not even want the car back. We would be afraid to get in the vehicle. The car was in perfect condition.
Let me explain something to you. He's not giving you $3,000 for the car. You don't want the car back? I'll tell him not to give you the car back. What do you want?
Well, we wanted the value of the car. Now
you're not getting that.
There won't be a value.
Understand? You're not getting that.
Okay. Well, I'm also trying to show you receipts of my name on it and his name that I put money on his prison books for money they can have while incarcerated.
How much?
There's 2 receipts for each for $100.
Okay, that makes you $1,150. Go
okay,
ahead.
But then right here it states the loan, and you don't have to pay back. It's $300.
How many times do I have to explain that to you?
Well, I know. I wasn't sure I made that clear.
You made it very clear. I'm a very quick learn. In any event, Social Security, hopefully, since it's my money, is going to come back and get all this money from him because
they're already doing it, Your Honor.
Oh, good. That's what I figured. They will stop the rest of his checks because it doesn't look to me, Mr. Soto, as if you are a disabled enough person not to be employed. Certainly not for Bird to have to pay for it. That's it. You want the car back or not?
Yes, but
yes?
how do we recover it?
Well, get a tow truck and go get it. Goodbye.
Parties are accessory. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Young man, why don't you have a seat, please? Ms. Duckowitz, according to what I've read, back in 1994, you were having some grief issues, emotional problems, and you opened up the yellow pages, looked in the yellow pages, for someone to talk to.
Yes, Your Honor, I did.
And you found the defendant's name.
Yes, I did.
And she was your counselor from 1994 until 2002.
Yes.
Your complaint is several-fold. You've discovered sometime in 2002 that she lacked credentials. You had some sort of a problem with her in April where you say she came to your house uninvited and assaulted your son and damaged some property. You're suing her for breach of confidentiality because she divulged some information about you to your husband. And you want, as I said, all the money back that you paid her from 1994 to 2002. The defendant's going to have an opportunity to respond to all of that, but she says that she never held herself out to be anything other than what she is, which is now sort of a wellness counselor. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have the advertisement that you saw from 1994?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
I'd like to see it, please.
I actually have 1994 all the way through 2000.
No, I just want to see the advertisement that you used to pick her out of the phone book, because that's where you say you got her from. Let's start back there.
Okay.
This says Rainbow in a Tear Workshops. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
And where does this say that they're social workers or psychologists or anywhere else?
In that particular ad, it did not say that.
That's all I'm interested in. This is the one you have.
Yes.
So he or she or anyone else did not hold themselves out to be anything other than a rainbow in a tear workshop. I don't know what that means.
Tear.
Excuse me?
Rainbow in a tear.
Tear. What did I say tear? Rainbow in a tear. Thank you. Rainbow in a tear. Absolutely right. Now, can you tell me what credentials the defendant held herself out to have when you arrived there?
That she was an experienced grief counselor. She made mention of the fact that she also did divorce counseling, marriage and family therapy.
You were there for grief counseling?
That was what I went for.
Okay. You didn't ask her what training she had to be a grief counselor, did you?
Not at that time, I did not.
When did you?
I began to question. There was a period of time where I did not see Miss Maskery. I moved to the Midwest. I saw her in 1994. I did not see Miss Maskery again until 1999. At that point in time, we had changed our insurance. I'm sorry?
Why did you start to see her again in 1999?
I was still dealing with grief issues with my daughter's death. It seemed to me a comfortable relationship. I did not want to start all over with somebody new.
Okay, well, it was comfortable enough for you to go back to her.
So I did go back to her.
You seem like an intelligent woman, so that if you made a judgment, she helped you some in 1994, and you wanted to go back and continue in 1999. So, go ahead. 1999.
So in 1999, I approached Miss Maskery. The first visit was around the anniversary date of what would have been my daughter's birthday. Also at that time, having subsequently had a set of twins, a young son growing up as well, we did begin to include other family members in the sessions. Some of the sessions were myself, some of the sessions were Miss Maskery and my husband and the children's.
Okay. You went, your husband went, so clearly there was not a problem with her.
There were a number of times where I very much disagreed with what was being said. And then there were some ethical issues that started to come up.
Well, you want to tell me what happened and when, because so far, as far as I'm concerned, she didn't hold herself out to be anything other than a counselor. She didn't hold herself out to be a psychiatrist, psychologist, social worker, or anything else. So far, you have no case.
Actually, Connecticut changed its laws in 1995, adapting an approach to the licensure requirements for MSW and LCSW licensing. What you had to have in order to be able to have any type of counseling program whatsoever available to the public. I found those laws, went back through some journals that I had been keeping. I can't even say that this was a professional relationship because there was no regard for profession. The suggestions that were made, and then when I followed through on suggestions, I got laced out in lavender.
Give me an example.
Okay. I was having a difficult time around the anniversary of my daughter's death. Expressed a desire to be able to get away, to have a break. Her words to me were, you should leave the whole bunch of them. They're no good. They don't treat you right. They're awful to you. So I made arrangements to go and stay with my parents for the weekend. And she laced me out in lavender, yelled at me, told me I was stupid. What do you think you're doing? How could you do that to your family? How could you just walk out on your family and leave them like this? What's wrong with you? If I told you to jump off a bridge, would you follow me too?
When was this, in March?
This was in March of 1999 that situation occurred.
All right. But then you continued to see her all the way up through 2002.
On and off, there were times where I did go back to see her, more of the grief issues, but they were compounded by family situations.
I don't understand. If you had a problem with her and if you had certain issues and if you were able to look back and smart enough gal to study what the laws were and changes in the laws in the state of Connecticut where you come from, and yet you continued to go to her from 1999 until 2002, until something happened. So something else is bothering you, madam. And I would appreciate if you get to it, because I got a lot of things to do today.
Okay. I'm not denying that I was very stupid.
Well, you don't get rewarded from that, especially by me. Let's go.
So,
something happened. According to you, it happened in April of 2002. Okay. So you want to cut to the chase. You're not getting your money back from 1994, 95, 96, 97, 99, 2000, 2001, 2002. Let's hear the rest.
We had a number of arguments, a number of disagreements on belief systems, and at that time I was experiencing a desire to change my religious beliefs. My husband was not fully aware of what I was doing as far as no longer believing what he believed in. I came home one night in April. Miss Maskery was in my home talking with my husband. I don't really know what went on in that conversation, but she practically ordered me to come in and see her. And I was very upset. I said, no, absolutely not. No, I'm not going to do this. And I told her that she had to leave, and I walked her out of the house. She got in her car and left. I came back into the house. That's when my husband revealed to me that she had told him that I am a practicing Wiccan, and that I had been practicing this behind his back. Subsequently, later in the week...
Practicing?
Wiccan.
What is that?
Witchcraft.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
They were scuffling with the door, a lot of banging around going on. She was pushing, trying to get through the doorway.
You've known her for 8 years. Instead of running away, which sounds a little loony to me, right? You turn around and you say, Bonnie, what do you want? I don't want you in the house.
Well, I kind of figured she was up to something. I didn't know what it was.
Well, why don't you find out?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Amy Duckowitz says her former grief counselor, Bonnie Maskery, misrepresented her credentials. Amy also claims Bonnie came to her home uninvited and assaulted her son.
Right. Subsequently, later in the week, Miss Maskery went to my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law and made an attempt to reach my parents to corroborate whatever information she had. I felt that this was total breach of confidentiality.
Stop right there. Miss Maskery, I'm going to get to this part of her complaint in a moment. First, I'm going to ask you, what's your educational background?
Educational background, I have a Bachelor of Education in Science. I have a Master's in Science from Central Connecticut State University.
What year?
1992. Part-time basis.
What kind of science?
Counseling.
In counseling?
Counseling education, yes ma'am.
Was there a time when you had a conversation with the plaintiff's husband about her practicing Wiccan?
Mr. Duckowitz had contacted me and asked me to come to the house, and he wanted to know what was going on in his home. Amy seems to be doing a lot of things behind my back. I don't understand what she's doing. She's rejected my religion. And at that point in time, I asked him if he had ever heard of anyone who practiced witchcraft. And he said no. And I relayed to him that he might want to look into the situation and that Amy might be involved in such a thing.
Okay. You recognized, of course, Miss Maskery, that that was a breach of confidentiality.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there any reason why you opted to breach your client's confidentiality?
Yes, ma'am. Her husband had expressed a fear for his family, for her, himself, and that he was confused, did not know what was going on, and did not know what steps to take at that point in time.
What happened next?
On the 23rd of April, around 10:20 in the evening, Miss Maskery showed up at my house, backing her car up into my driveway. Ben says, Mom, it's Bonnie. Bonnie's here. I said, go out and tell her to leave right now. I don't want to talk to her. I refuse to have anything more to do with her. He went out into the driveway, and he was talking to her, and the hands were going. I couldn't hear exactly what was going on. She pushed by him, pushing him up against my car, started to make her way towards the house. He got in front of her. He got into the breezeway. He held the door. She pulled on the door, pulling the rivets out on the door decoration. And he ran to get into the house and tried to close the interior door. They were scuffling with the door, a lot of banging around going on. She was pushing, trying to get through the doorway. I kept saying, go home, get out of here, I don't want you here. Ben pushed the door against her. She hit the dollhouse, which was right beside the door. Furniture got broken, pieces of the dollhouse got broken. She managed to make her way into the house. She and Ben were going at it in the kitchen. I was trying to decide, you know, who am I supposed to protect in this situation?
Well,
what am I supposed to do?
You put your son in the awkward position in the first place. How old's your son?
He was 14 at the time.
You don't send him outside. You're the grown-up. You go outside and say, Bonnie, I don't want you in the house. What'd you send your son out there for? What do you mean, who are going to protect? If you protect your son, madam, you protect your son by not sending him outside in the first place.
You're absolutely right. I was wrong for doing that.
Okay, so let's move on. So now she's in the house.
She managed to get her way into the house. They continued scuffling with one another. She pushed him up against the basement doorway. She got into the house. She got into the house. She forced him into the cellarway and pulled the door closed so that he couldn't come back out of it. I started to walk down the hallway. My goal was to get to the phone in the bedroom. She was coming at me, so I went into the bathroom. I tried to close the bathroom door. to get away from her. The door ended up going over my foot.
Why didn't you just ask her what she wanted?
I was saying, I don't want you here.
No, why didn't you just say, what do you want here, Bonnie? You've known her for 8 years. You've known her for 8 years. Instead of running away, which sounds a little loony to me, right? You turn around and you say, Bonnie, what do you want? I don't want you in the house.
I kept saying, I don't want you here.
Well, what do you want? Why are you here?
Well, I kind of figured she was up to something. I didn't know what it was.
Well, why don't you find out? Why don't you find out? Where was your husband?
He was at work. We ended up, she came into the bathroom on me. She was trying to grab a hold of me. She did grab my shoulders and kind of push on me to push me down.
What did she say to you?
She said to me, I want to talk to you. And I said, I don't want to talk to you. I want you to leave.
Okay, there's a reason. There's a reason. She's not a lunatic. She didn't come to your house to cause a fight. What happened on the 23rd, Miss Maskery?
On the 23rd of April, I received a call from Mr. Duckowitz. Now, this was left on my answering machine. He expressed a concern about Amy, that Amy, upon his leaving the house for work, had threatened herself and, more importantly, threatened him, that on his arrival home, she had threatened to kill him, and he was extremely concerned about the situation in the house.
Ms. Duckowitz, on the 23rd of April of 2002, had you had any difficulty with your husband before he left to work?
We had had an argument.
That's all I want to know. You had had an argument?
Yes.
So it is possible that the reason that Miss Maskery appeared at your house on that day is because she received a phone call from your husband.
I don't know if my husband actually left her a message.
I think he probably did. I think that he probably did. And that sometimes when you have an argument with somebody and the words, you know, I'm going to kill you, I'll kill myself, I'll kill everybody else, you know.
I never said those
whatever.
things.
He was sufficiently concerned so that he called her, which is why she showed up at the door. You should not have forced your way into the house. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am, but I did not.
What?
I did not force my way into the house.
Why don't you tell me your version of what happened?
I was concerned. Ben had come out of the house and relayed to me that his mom did not want to see me. I said, oh, okay. Are you okay? I went to the door. At that point, I saw Amy scuffling in the house to make her presence not seen. I said, Ben, could you open the door, please? I am concerned about you and your mom and the other kids. He said, my mom doesn't want to see you. I said, I understand that, but I have a professional and a personal concern for what is going on. As far as any damage to the door, the house, the breezeway, or anything like that did not exist. Those conditions were there before I ever arrived at the house.
Was there any sort of a report made about this incident?
Yes, ma'am, there is. I have a copy of the police report that was made of the incident.
Who made the police report?
The police that accompanied Mr. Duckowitz on his arriving at home at about midnight or so.
He had a policeman with him?
Yes, ma'am. He had called the police and said he would not go home unless the police were with him.
Well, clearly you had a difficult time with your husband on that date because he did request a police escort home. Correct?
I don't believe the record indicates he requested a police escort home.
You have to read between the lines. They don't say everything here.
My husband came home that night, came into the house, and we were conversing, and I heard the door chimes, and I opened the main breezeway door, and there's 2 police officers standing there. And they said, can we come in? Is everything all right tonight? And one officer went in the living room with my husband. One officer stayed and talked with me. They were in the home 20 minutes or so. They asked if we could get Ben up, talk to him. Subsequently, they left. The case was unfounded.
All right, I listened to the germane parts of your story, Ms. Duckowitz, and this is a case that should not be in court. Let me tell you what I find. I find, Ms. Maskery, the one thing that you did that, in my judgment, was less than professional was sharing the information that you gathered as a result of your counseling sessions with Mrs. Duckowitz about her practicing any sort of witchcraft or wickery.
Wicca.
Wicca. Wickery is what they do with furniture, I guess.
Yes.
It's not my strong suit. I think that you probably understand, Ms. Duckowitz, that what you and or your family needs is the kind of therapy that can only be provided by someone who has a more extensive credential than does Ms. Maskery. What seems to me to be evident, however, is that the defendant even though she may not have advanced qualifications, certainly has more of a personal interest in you and your family that you're going to find with most psychiatrists or psychologists. And while I'm not giving her any medals for divulging this information to your husband, and she realizes it was not the right thing to do, but I think she had developed almost a personal relationship with this whole family, you, your son, your husband, and I think that that was done because she was concerned for you, your welfare, your son's welfare, the twins' welfare, your husband's welfare. That doesn't necessarily make it right, because psychiatrists, psychologists are often given information that they feel as if they would love to be able to tell somebody, but they are precluded from doing it. So it was wrong. But you don't get financially compensated for that, Ms. Duckowitz, and your case is dismissed.
Your Honor, this is case number 363 on the calendar in the matter of King versus Collier. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Ms. King, according to what I've read, the defendant was your former boyfriend. First, you say about a little more than a year ago, he had an accident with your car, which you paid for, which he said he would take care of. Then you claim to have expended a certain amount of money for remodeling of a condo that he had purchased, also with the agreement that he would pay you back. When you broke up, somehow you got him to sign a promissory note for all this money, or I think $3,200. Mr. Collier says the following. He said that you caused the accident to the car yourself, that he never borrowed any money from you, that the remodeling that you did to the condo, which had belonged to his uncle, was your own choice. The only reason he says that he signed this promissory note was that you were holding some money of his that you had gotten your hands on. You told him you wouldn't give him the money unless he signed the note. So he signed the note under duress. That's your defense.
Yes, Your Honor.
When was this accident with the car?
It was back in July of 2001.
And tell me about the accident with the car.
We were leaving a parking garage in Ybor City, and we were looking for the ticket that you give the attendant whenever you leave, and we couldn't find it, and we had pulled in already, so he went to back up, and as he backed up, he tore the whole bumper off the front of the car.
So it's the bumper that you're talking about?
Correct.
You remember that, sir?
Yes, Your Honor. I don't remember it that way, though.
Who was driving?
I was driving.
Okay. So do you have insurance?
Yes.
So did the insurance cover the damage?
No, my deductible was $500, and it only cost $335.
Okay. Did you agree to pay that?
I never agreed to pay that, Your Honor.
So give me your version of the events. You are driving, the bumper comes off the car. How did the bumper come off the car?
I actually wasn't driving. We had gone to the
You
parking...
just told me you were driving.
Oh, I was in the driver's seat. We had just backed out of the parking garage spot that I was in, that she had parked in.
Yeah.
And the angle that I pulled back, that, you know, having no idea how she had left the wheel cocked, it caught on the edge of the wall and it ripped her bumper off.
The wall didn't move, sir. The car moved.
I agree, Your Honor.
Good. Okay. So that's $335. Did you ever say that you would pay to have that bumper repaired?
No, Your Honor. The reason I agreed or told her I wouldn't pay her back for that is the fact
Would
that...
or would not?
Would not. Is because she was drunk. She drunk to drive, asked me to drive, handed me the keys, and that's the only reason I was driving. I was trying to do her a favor.
Is it true that you gave him the keys to the car because you had been drinking?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Don't drink. What's next?
I had loaned him, actually first he started living with me and he agreed that he would pay a third of the rent and a third of the utility bills.
For how many months?
Just for 1 month.
And what's the rent?
It was $800 and we divided it and he would have paid $266 for the rent and it was $74 for a third of the utility bills. And he also borrowed money to pay his car payments and he borrowed money to pay his cell phone bills.
What was his car payment?
I don't have that written down exactly.
$158.73, Your Honor.
And I paid it quite a few times. And I probably have paid it more times than I had even...
I can't keep track of that. What kind of a way is that to have a loan, madam?
Because I was dating him, and that's things that you do.
And then finally, we have the stuff for the apartment. Let's hear about the stuff for the apartment.
It was for a condo that his uncle owned, and we had agreed that he would move in. I was still living with my roommate, so I couldn't move out at the time. And I said that we agreed that whenever time came that my lease would be up, that I would buy the place from his uncle, and that's why I would do the remodeling, and that he would also pay for that.
That you would buy the place from his uncle?
Mm-hmm.
You?
Yes, later.
You, not the two of you, you would buy the place for his uncle, so you were going to remodel it for when you bought it?
Correct.
Had you discussed that with his uncle?
No.
Just with him?
Just with him.
Well, what made you think his uncle wanted to sell it?
He discussed him buying it from his uncle.
He owner leased it to me, Your Honor. So he was selling it to me.
And you discussed selling it to her?
Yeah, yes, Your Honor, yes.
And that's why she decided to remodel it. Is that right?
Correct, Your Honor.
And then you decided not to sell it to her. Is that right?
No, she left, Your Honor.
Or she left. Whatever. Listen, I'm telling you this, Miss King. I'm unimpressed with all of these loans that you claim. Without a promissory note, the one that you say you have,
yes, I do, Your
you
Honor.
wouldn't get any money. I'm going to tell you why. Because if you remodel this place in anticipation of you purchasing it, so you were really remodeling it for yourself, there was no loan to him of that money. You remodeled it because you were going to live there. That was your foolishness. You don't remodel a place until the title of it is in your name.
Correct.
You want to do it fast? You do it fast. That's your problem. So now I'm going to take a look at the promissory note. Okay, so I have a promissory note for $3,200, sir, that you signed.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, let me hear the circumstances surrounding you signing this promissory note.
She left on the 4th, and when she left, she had some cash in my
4th of?
March. When she did so, she didn't realize, I think, that she had some cash with her that I needed for my mortgage payment due on the 7th.
Mortgage for what?
To my uncle.
You mean your rent?
Well, he's taking it off the principal, so he's holding the note for me. But the mortgage payment was due on the 7th, and on the 4th, she left with my cash. I couldn't raise the $350.
How did she get your cash?
I was having her hold it for me. I think we were going to deposit
But
in the
you
bank.
speak slowly, sir. I can't follow you. I'm old.
Yes, Your Honor. She had my cash with her because she was holding it for me so that I would not spend it.
How much cash was she holding?
$350.
Okay, go ahead.
And on the 8th, a day after my mortgage was late, she agreed to go ahead and give me the cash, but only if I would sign the promissory note. And since I know their means of getting the cash that quickly, I went ahead and signed the note.
Did you have his money?
Yes, Your Honor. He had been staying at my place and left it.
And so you took the money and said you want your money back? Is that right?
Well, it was in my...
Oh, you want your money back? You're going to sign this note?
Correct, Your Honor.
Is that what happened?
Yes.
That's duress. You can't do that.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today...
She wanted you to get out of the car?
Yes, that way she could fight me. She grabbed my windshield wiper. She smashed it because she was really mad and broke it. And then with her both fists, she was really pissed, won't dent my car.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sherry King says her ex-boyfriend, Keith Collier, owes for damage to her car and unpaid loans. Keith says he owes her nothing.
As I said to you before, Miss King, but for the promissory note, I would find that there was never a loan made. With regard to the automobile, you were drunk, which is the reason he drove. He's backing out of a spot, not purposefully.
He wasn't backing out of a spot. He was backing out of the actual toll booth that he had pulled into. I did not pull into there, Your Honor.
Whatever it was. But for the fact that the two of you had broken up, there's not a question in my mind that we would not be here over this bumper damage to the car. When you drive a car, drive someplace, you go out, you're not supposed to get drunk, so you can't drive at home. Okay? I don't know how much he had been drinking that evening, whether he had been drinking more than you or less than you. I assume that he had been drinking some too, which means that you're both stupid. Then we come to the bills. Bills that you say, well, he said he would pay me some rent, and then I paid for his car payment. I paid a lot of times. I paid his car payment more than once. I'm not sure about how many times. I don't get involved with that. This is a court. You're supposed to say, on September 1st, 1999, I paid a car payment. On September 16th, the year 2000, I made a car payment for him. I have that all written down here. This is his car payment. He asked me to please advance it, and if I would, he would pay me back in a month. That's not what this is all about. This is about a boyfriend and girlfriend situation where you give him money. I don't know whether he ever gave you money.
No, Your Honor.
Probably not. Well, that means that you're not too... Right? The only thing that you thought that you did that was clever was having him do the promissory note for all this money that you thought he owed you. The only problem is you forced him to sign it. You were withholding his property. And if you withheld his property and said, unless you sign this note, I'm not going to give you the property, that is duress. So you get zippo, nada, nothing. Your case is dismissed. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Just hopefully no one will ever have to deal with him the way I had to deal with him.
I'm glad to see that justice was served.
Because he's a loser and he will scam anyone out of anything.
I feel bad that Ms. King feels like she was ripped off and misled by me.
Every week he would say that he would pay me the money, and then he would say, oh, I spent it on this or I spent it on that, and never came through with it.
I'm sorry that I had to come to a court battle. She could have settled it outside very easily.
Don't give money to anyone unless you have anything signed, and don't deal with idiot con artists like that.
Worked out pretty well for me, didn't it?
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Berrios versus Rivera, step forward, please.
15-year-old student Wandalise Berrios and her mother, social worker Maria Berrios, are suing Wandalise's boyfriend, 18-year-old Eric Rivera, and his mother, business owner Miriam Rivera. Maria says Miriam ran her off the road and vandalized her car.
Miss Berrios, is this your daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
Sit down. And is this your son?
Yes, ma'am.
You sit down. Miss Berrios, it's your claim that Mrs. Rivera vandalized your car with you in it. Is that right?
That's correct.
And Miss Rivera says that she was angry, but she did not, in fact, damage your car at all. Now, what I gather is that your daughter was dating her son. Is that right? These two.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And it's your claim that Mrs. Rivera didn't like the idea of her son dating your daughter. Is that true?
Yes,
by the
ma'am.
way? You weren't happy with this relationship? Correct. So why don't you tell me what happened on the day that your car was allegedly vandalized?
On July 3rd, her son called my daughter, and they wanted to meet us in the fireworks.
Okay, so it was July 4th weekend, there were fireworks.
On the 3rd,
and
yes.
Did he come to your house, or did you pick him up?
And we met him in the fireworks in Altamont.
Is that right?
Yes, it is.
You met where at a park or something where they were having fireworks?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You watched the fireworks, and then you were ready to go home?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Good. Now tell me what happened.
Okay, when we dropped him off in his house, and the defendant, she drove in front of my car, and she started yelling, threatening, and she tried to break my window, and her son came up and went right there in front of us.
Just a second. She's in her car, you're in your car?
Correct.
Did she get out of her car?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get out of your car?
No, Your Honor.
You stayed in your car, but she pulled up in front of you, cut you off?
Correct. Yes, Your Honor.
And got out of her car. What about her son? Did he get out of the car?
We dropped him already. He was in his house.
Okay, so he came out of the house.
He ran out of the house, and he stepped between the defendant and I, right there by the window, because she tried to break the window with her
elbow. And you're sitting in the driver's seat?
Yes, ma'am.
Then what did she do?
And I did not respond to her request because the prior incident that I have with her, that she assaulted me. So I did not respond to her request. And
she wanted you to get out of the car?
Yes, that way she could fight me. So I did not get out of the car, and I told my daughter, let's leave here, because prior to that, she grabbed since I don't open the window, she grabbed my windshield wiper. She smashed it because she was really mad and broke it. And then with her both fists, she was really pissed and bumped my car. So at that time, I told my daughter, let's get out of here, let's report it. I went on reverse, I left the scene. She continued following me to my house. That's what I found out. I went to the police report, and I reported. And I put an injunction on Miss Rivera.
You have photographs of the car?
Yes, Your Honor.
Can I see it, please? Are you two young people still dating each other or not?
Yes.
So I assume you don't want to be here?
No.
You don't want to be here?
No.
You don't want to be here. Is that right?
No.
Okay. Okay. Ready to hear you.
Well, the incident of actually the morning of the 4th of July happened all because my son and his girlfriend, Diana, was attending my child who's mentally handicapped and my daughter, which is 11 years old. This lady had the audacity to go out there and pick him up, left my two children alone with another 17-year-old child when he and her were supposed to watch my children, where my son walked away and got lost in the park where the fireworks were. And it was almost 2 in the morning by the time I was able to pick up my children from the park in the traffic. And when I got home, she was just dropping him off without no permission of mine, no knowledge where my son was. And I knew he was with her because his girlfriend, Diana,
That's not Diana.
No, that's not Diana.
He has 2 girlfriends.
Yes. And it might be 3, but right now 2. Anyway, when I got home, yes, I was very furious capable of, even if she would have got out of the car, I would have smacked her really good, because how a mother could leave a child who is mentally handicapped.
And just slap him.
Well, I did that.
Why'd you slap him? What are you slapping her for?
Because she's the adult. She should have left him where he was.
Just a second. You're not claiming she picked him up at your house.
No, she went behind my back as a parent and picked him up in the park.
How do you know that? That she went behind your back? How is she supposed to read your mind about what arrangements you had with your son?
Because she knew.
How does she know?
Because he told her.
Oh, baloney. But you're assuming that.
True.
You're assuming that.
True.
How tall are you?
6 foot.
6 feet. Healthy, right?
As far as I know.
How old are you?
18.
And an adult. And if he's 17, he was still 6 feet tall and very healthy.
Yes.
Right? Are you suggesting to me, Miss Rivera, that your son went to Miss Berrios and said, I'm supposed to be minding my 2 siblings, but I'm going to blow them off and leave them here by themselves. So could you please give me a ride home? Is that what you think he said to her? That's what you're assuming, because you want to be mad at somebody instead of being mad at him. You're mad at her. What are you mad at her for?
Because it's not the first incident that this happens.
Put the blame where it's supposed to be. By the way, where were you July 3rd?
I was at my house.
Why weren't you taking care of your children?
Because he was old enough to do it, and he wanted to go to Red Hot and Boom.
He was old enough to do it because you thought he was responsible enough
Correct.
to do it. Clearly, he wasn't.
Well, I learned my lesson in that part.
So that was your error in judgment. You don't take that out on her car.
I did not touch her car, ma'am.
Oh, yes, you did. Oh, yes, you did. There is no question in my mind that you broke the windshield wipers off her car and smashed down with your fist on her car, causing a dent. Absolutely no question in my mind. And I'm not going to put these 2 young people in a position of having to testify, because it just seems unfair to have to do that. I don't know if this is the girlfriend you want to be with or one of your other 2. That's your business. By the way, he probably does have other girlfriends. You understand that?
Yes.
Let me see the estimates of the damage to the car. Do you work?
No, ma'am.
What do you do?
I'm a student.
Where?
Lighthouse Christian Academy.
I have 3 estimates, and the cheapest estimate to do the work is $1321.89. Is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
You know that they're still dating?
Yes.
You resigned yourself to that?
Actually, as long as he lives under my roof and I pay for his school, he has to abide by my laws.
Which is?
They want to see themselves, they could see themselves out of her house. I don't want him in her house because they're in illegal activities. And if he's in her house and there is a bus in her house and my son is put in jail for something that he haven't done, I'm going to hold her responsible for my son's
Why don't you hold
liberty.
him responsible? He's 18 years old. He's 6 feet 1. You think that she can keep him out of her house?
Yes. She don't have to open the door.
Miss Rivera, you rely on him a lot?
Yes, I do.
I assume that you did rely on him a lot.
Yes, I'm a single parent. I raised him by myself.
You got to corral him. If you can't do it, don't expect other people to do it. If he doesn't follow your directions, and what you're saying is as long as he's living under my roof, breathing the air that I pay for, turning on the electricity that I pay for, eating the food that I pay for, then go out, get yourself a job, live on your own. You can do whatever you want to do.
That's right.
Your problem is that he is of help to you in the house, taking care of your 13-year-old son.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,320.
On the calendar in the matter of Clay versus Todd. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Young lady, have a seat, please.
Who is this?
This is my daughter, Mallory.
How old is she?
15.
I'd like her outside, please. I've read your complaint, and according to your complaint, the defendant was your former fiancé. There came a time when you and your child moved into her home, and it is your claim that you made 2 loans to her. One was for veterinary bills for her dog, and the other was for repairs that were done on her car. Ms. Todd acknowledges the fact that you paid the vet bill, correct?
Yes.
And Ms. Todd acknowledges the fact that you paid to have her car fixed.
Yes.
What she says is that you lived there practically rent-free for the time that you lived there with your daughter. She took care of the majority of the bills, despite the fact that you had an agreement to pay half of the bills. You actually owe her money, but she's willing to say, forget it.
Yes.
Mr. Clay, when did you move into the defendant's house?
Late September, early October of 2000.
And how long did you stay there, sir?
We moved out on January of 2002.
And what was the financial arrangement that you had with Miss Todd while you were there?
Well, the financial arrangement was never really clear-cut, but I covered things like groceries, Costco, a lot of other expenses, and she paid for household utilities.
Well, so how much money each month did you contribute to the household?
To the household? To put it on a monthly scale, I can give you figures of what I spent during the 14-month period on things like groceries and Costco and pet food and medical bills and cellular phone bills. In total, in rent for the 14 months, I paid her $17,995.74, which is almost $1,200 per month for a 14-month period.
Okay.
There were a couple of months
that would be more than fair.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true that he paid you $18,000?
That's not the figure I have.
What figure do you have?
I have that he paid about $10,000, a little more than $10,000. So basically, there's a huge dispute here. The dispute is that he moved in from a one-bedroom apartment that he shared with his daughter, in which he slept on the floor. His daughter was a latchkey child at this apartment, and his pet rat died of heat exhaustion in this apartment.
I'll go back in. What I want to know, Mr. Clay, is I want you to tell me about these two loans. When were they made?
Okay.
And tell me the circumstances surrounding them.
We were going to go to the Writers Guild Awards. Mrs. Todd wanted us all to go as a family to the Writers Guild Awards, which she was a member of the Writers Guild. And in order to do so, she did not have all of the money necessary. The tickets were, I think, $500. And so in order to do so, I put $700 worth of PG&E bills on one of my credit cards so that that money could be freed to go to the Writers Guild. But then suddenly, her car needed new brakes. It was going to be $1,200. She didn't have the money, and we needed the car to drive to Los Angeles.
Where was your car?
My car is a little teeny Honda Civic. It wouldn't have worked to carry 4 people in their bags to Los Angeles. So I agreed to place that on the credit card with the idea that she was going to pay, with the agreement that she would pay me back.
Well, tell me about the agreement, because you changed your words several times. You said, with my thought that she would pay me back?
Well, yes, it was, okay, I will put this on the card. You will pay me back when you can pay me back. She goes, she would even state, I'll pay you back. I would state, I'm not worried about it. I know you will. We're a family.
So after the Writers Guild Award, did she pay anything towards that?
No.
Okay, now when did the dog get sick?
Well, the first charge for the dog is on the 9th of March. And so it was shortly after we got back.
Of 01?
Of 2001, correct.
Okay.
And I took the dog, the dog wasn't eating, so I took the dog to the vet, and the vet said that he had a enlarged spleen, and when the vet came by and said, okay, I'm going to do the splenectomy, it's going to be $2,700. The only way for this to be paid for was by me putting it on my credit card. Unfortunately, while the dog was in surgery, or shortly thereafter, the veterinary hospital broke his leg. They proceeded to take him to Davis Medical Center, where they diagnosed him with a vascular cancer and gave a prognosis of 3 to 6 months, that the leg would not heal, that it would need to be amputated, and he could go on chemo, and this might prolong his life. I was vehemently against this, but once again, I get a phone call from Ms. Todd when she's now in Davis picking up the dog saying, I need you to put this on the credit card and I'll pay you back. And this was another $1,100+ for the amputation of this dog's leg.
Is that correct?
I don't believe I said I will pay you back for these. Peter and I were living as a family. It was, we need to get these expenses done and we need to put them on the card. It wasn't as though I just rushed up to UC Davis. We discussed this with the kids, we discussed this with Peter, we discussed it with our veterinarian at great length and decided that the treatment for the dog was to go to UC Davis.
What about, Ms. Todd, the expenses for the car?
I also put well over that amount of money into the car for car repairs. It was used primarily as the family car.
I assume that it was used primarily as the family car.
Yeah, it's a big Ford Explorer. As he said, he has a little Honda. We hardly went any place in his car.
Mr. Clay, I have several questions for you, sir. I assume that by virtue of the fact that the two of you were standing on opposite sides of the table, that this relationship did not work out.
No, it did not.
Let us assume it had. And you got married. And she didn't give you back this money. Would you be suing her?
Possibly not.
Then that's not a debt.
When somebody...
You see. No, first of all, I'm going to read to you what you wrote with regard in your complaint, which could have very easily resolved at least a substantial part of this lawsuit. You say she was out of work and was in the process of taking her dog's vet to court for malpractice.
Correct.
She promised me that as soon as she won her lawsuit, she would pay me what she owed me.
Correct. Which
That's what you say?
Yes.
So she promised to pay you back for the car and the vet when she won her lawsuit.
Correct.
But she lost her lawsuit.
Correct.
then you get nothing.
That was not that.
That's what you wrote. Do you understand? That's what you wrote. So, 10 months she made no payments. And you didn't say, where's my money? You didn't bring a lawsuit while you were living together. It wasn't until after you separated that you said, you know, that's not reasonable. She got the car, she got the dog, and I don't have this money. So I have a problem with that. There's a certain lack of, I believe, candor on your part when you say this was a debt that she promised to pay me back. Even you acknowledge that you had sort of a loose arrangement with regard to money. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes.
Good. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. I'm going to step out.
I knew Judge Judy would know what to do. She always does.
She asked me repeatedly, how much money do I owe you? And I gave her a total.
Peter likes to have things his way only, and if he doesn't get them his way, he jumps right in and proves that he's right.
And then when she lost her lawsuit that she was filing, she chose not to pay me back. Told me I owed her money.
I'm really glad I didn't marry him, and I'm really glad this is over, and I thank Judge Judy.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Osterman versus Porter. Step forward, please.
Production manager Jean Osterman is suing her children's father, landscaper Lyman Porter. Jean says Lyman sold the children's toys behind their backs.
Miss Osterman, the defendant is your former husband, and according to your complaint, he sold some property that belonged to you and to one of your children. You want to be reimbursed for that property. Mr. Porter says that the property he sold was his. He had a right to sell it.
Yes.
When were you divorced?
1994.
And did the children remain with you?
Yes, we have joint custody.
What property did Mr. Porter take?
He came to my residence and took a trampoline that he had given them summer of 2001.
Is that right, Mr. Porter?
No, ma'am.
What was the trampoline doing at her house?
I had 2 trampolines, same size, and fixed them up. And we live close to each other, so where they reside, they have a pool, so I figured I can give them one of the trampolines to use for the summer. Because, like now, they outgrew it because of all their activities and things.
Well, you say that you just put it in this past summer. How could they outgrow it in 3 months?
They didn't use it, and I've already replaced the tarp and had the other one restitched, and, you know, receipts to show everything that I've done to take care of it.
I don't care whether you've done that, sir. The point of the matter is you can't go to her house and take things off her property without her permission.
I got permission. She wasn't home. I talked to her husband and got permission.
Really? Are you the husband? Step up.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Maybe you're just thick or maybe you're simple. You have 2 children. You're not supposed to do anything to purposely hurt your children. Now do you understand? No.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jean Osterman claims her ex-husband, Lyman Porter, sold their children's toys without permission.
Go ahead.
I was working at home and the dogs were barking, and I came down and met Mr. Porter at the front of the house, and he come over and he had said that he had sold the trampoline and that he had come over to take it down. And because my wife had told me not to get involved with the situations between her ex-husband and her, I said, okay, fine. So I went in the house and tried to get a hold of my wife and couldn't get a hold of her. So she called about 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, he was already gone, and she said by no means for him to take it.
You told him he could. Your wife told you not to get involved? Took it. Okay. What's next, Miss Osterman?
He also, the reason I got so upset about the trampoline is that also in June, he had purchased as a gift for my son a YZ 1997 Yamaha motorcycle, and he sold that on him. But my son, prior to getting this motorcycle, they traded another one of his in on it, that he worked really hard for his dad and his business, and he worked the whole summer and he saved some money. And LJ can tell you more of that, but Lyman just up and sold that too and wasn't going to tell anybody about that.
Why did you do that for, Mr. Porter?
Okay, why I did it, the bike was a very small bike, and he outgrew it. He's a junior or a senior this year. He would squish it. I have other 2 bikes and trailers that they could use.
Well, what do you think that this is all about, Mr. Porter? I don't want to get your kids up here and testifying, but why would you do anything that would irritate your children?
They don't use it no more.
Why would you do anything that would irritate your children?
Didn't mean to irritate them.
But you did.
I have other bikes. I have other toys, snowmobiles. They're welcome to anything.
Was this a bike that you used?
Yeah.
All the time?
I use it often, yeah.
Did he have a discussion with you about selling the bike?
No, he never told me.
Does he have other bikes for you to use?
He's got one other one.
Is it in as good shape as the one that he sold?
No.
Mr. Porter, I think you make a big mistake, sir. And that is, it seems to me, you're doing little things that are irritating, and you shouldn't. You've been divorced a long time, since 1994. What is the problem with the two of you?
Can I show you some evidence?
Sure. What evidence do you want to show
I can show you the size of the bike and the size he is.
Here, you don't seem to get my point.
It's the bike. You might as well get rid of it before
Well,
it
you
just sits
discuss
there.
it with him. You discuss it with him.
He never helped me this summer.
You discuss it with him. That's what you do. Put your hand down. Who are you?
The brother and the uncle.
Stay out of it. Do you understand what I'm saying to you, Mr. Porter?
No.
Well, let me try again, because maybe you're just thick or maybe you're simple. You have 2 children. The idea is you're not supposed to do anything to purposely hurt your children. And if you have an irritating situation with your former wife, for whatever reason, and there has to be, because otherwise you wouldn't just show up one day at her door and say, I'm taking down the trampoline, because I decided the kids are too big, they don't play with it, or I decided I want to sell it. That's just stupid and irritating for your children. And then he's got a bike that he used. If it's too small for him, it's also too small for you. So you had no use for it. But before I would sell something that belonged to one of my children that they used, I would say, listen, I have this bike. It's too small for you. We'll sell it. Maybe we'll use the money and buy something else. We'll buy something that's bigger for you, or I have 2 other bikes that you can use. Not just sell it. Now do you understand? No.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You have no case, madam.
Your Honor, my son did, on the motorcycle that he sold, my son put $900 of his money down onto it, and he worked for that money in his business. And when he sold the motorcycle, he wasn't even going to tell anybody. I found out by accident that he sold it. I mean, he told me not to tell LJ that he sold the motorcycle, and I did right before he went to Wisconsin. And with the trampoline, my daughter is in cheerleading, and she uses it up until 2 weeks ago when he took it. And these are gifts.
He had permission to take the trampoline.
I don't think that my husband, I asked my husband.
He had permission from your husband to take the trampoline. Your husband is a grown man and could have said to him, you come back when my wife is home. He did not. He said, okay, go in the back and take it. That's it. And he did. Took it, and he removed it from your property. That's it. You have no case with regard to the trampoline. With regard to the motorcycle, if you want me to have your son testify against his father, I'll be more than happy to do that. Step up. Did you give your father money for this motorbike? Or?
I earned $900 the summer of '97, and we went out and we bought a bike. It was a KX-80, it was a different kind. And then the summer of '99, we went and traded that bike in, and he bought me this one.
Now I got it. Sit down. So your son feels as if he was at least part owner of that bike because of a series of trade-ins. Do you understand why your son feels as if you had no right to sell that bike without discussing it with him, Mr. Porter? Do you understand why your son feels as if you had no right to unilaterally sell that bike without at least discussing it with him?
The bike didn't even work because of all the...
Do you understand why
Sorry.
your son feels as if you had no right to unilaterally sell that bike without at least discussing it with him?
I guess I could have talked to him more.
Oy.
But...
Listen. Beauty fades, dumb is forever. Applies equally to men and to women. He doesn't get it, Mrs. Osterman.
I realize that.
He doesn't get it. Just because he's your father doesn't mean he's perfect. He's far from perfect. You may love him anyway, because that's what you're supposed to do. He's imperfect. He doesn't get it. No matter what I say to him, he's not going to get it. What other kinds of bikes do you have at your house, Mr. Porter?
Can I show you a picture?
Sure. Let me see.
Oh, sorry. You get it. Sorry.
Oops.
Sorry.
Okay,
there you go. All right.
Just a minute. Would you take all this crap back? Show me the 2 bikes that you have at your house.
Okay.
Now, these are the 2 bikes that you have at your house, sir?
Perfect shape.
LJ, listen to me. Bert is going to hand you this picture and this pen. I want you to make a mark next to the bike you want. Does that say Yamaha?
Yeah.
5 days from today, the court will prepare an order. That bike's to be turned over to your son. Do you understand? 5 days from today. That's the decision of the court. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Nhiều người cho rằng mọi cái hợp đồng bảo hiểm nhân thọ đều có giá trị hoàn lại. Đây có phải là một quan niệm đúng đắn hay